Cheers, y'all.
Oh, that's the beginning of a party right there.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast and video extravaganza known worldwide as
Mom.
the internationally famous Smokin' and Toastin'. Welcome to the show. We're all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. It's show number 245.
We're halfway to 300.
And no one has stopped us. It's amazing. So welcome. Today is our Great Martini Challenge. As we have talked about doing this show for so long that I'm so pleasantly surprised. I love that sound.
Years in the making.
Pleasantly surprised that it's finally here. Our cocktail expert, Chris Morris, has joined us, and he's brought along a friend, which makes us doubt this person's integrity immediately.
Hi, Mark. And you should.
But welcome to Fox and Seeker's Sean Anger. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you here.
Happy to be here.
So the concept of the Great Martini Challenge, although I don't think it's going to change any minds, will be to put gin martinis up against vodka martinis and see what we like about each one and which style, which spirit martini we like better. And Ian is now going to school me in the fact that vodka martinis are not actually called martinis.
That's true.
Go ahead. You might as well get it out of the way.
Well, I learned this from Chris Morris.
Yeah.
A vodka martini is actually not a martini. It's a kangaroo.
And somehow, I'm not saying that I doubt that that's true, but I have to note the irony in the fact that he calls them a kangaroo, and that the intro that he so nicely provided for us for drinking news features a verse about him getting into a fight with the kangaroo.
I was a little sad he didn't bring a guitar today, actually.
Kangaroo, this is
Cruze.
not a word that you work into every conversation.
This has been confirmed. It was in Playboy, and if you read the articles like that fine publication was intended, you would know this.
Well,
Who would question the integrity of that publication?
I'm beginning to understand why I missed it.
I'm sure their fact-checking department is
Second to
irreproachable.
I'm sure it is. There's some good journalism going on.
I like
there.
what you're doing over there, Chris.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
This looks good.
So yeah, Chris is whipping up a first segment drink for us, which I'm really excited about.
A primer, if you will.
Also excited about where we're headed in this show, because in addition to the Great Martini Challenge, we'll be tasting what I think are going to wind up being some very interesting beers. Westbrook Brewing Company out of Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, has provided us with a beer that is not themed for their state at all. It's called Maximum Florida. But we talk so much about Florida on the show, with Florida Man being so prominent in drinking news. And we've got some favorite breweries in Florida that we have had beers on from before. So in any case, the Maximum Florida is an Imperial Berliner Weiss. And it's got all kinds
I like
of
a
stuff
Berliner
in
Weiss.
it. So we'll be getting
Imperial
to that.
Berliner Weiss, nonetheless.
Yes, we'll be getting to that. By the way, happy National IPA Day.
It's today National IPA Day.
Yeah.
And I'm starting off the show with the show beer,
And it
Art
is
Car IPA from
and
St.
it's
Arnold's.
a very good one from
Yes,
St.
it
Arnold's.
is.
So now, I was all excited when I saw that it was National IPA Day, but then I realized, there's National Day of everything. There's National Postage Stamp Liquors Day and stuff like that. I mean, it's just they've got everything. So it's not that big a deal. But in order to provide the appropriate celebration, we will be sampling from Brixton Labs their Edge of Mysteries IPA. Brixton
That sounds
Labs.
entertaining.
Out of Newport, Kentucky. And that seems a little deceptive because I've been to Kentucky and I don't recall any water at all. So how would there be a port or a new port of any kind? That needs to be in a coastal town. But I digress.
One of my favorite stories involves Kentucky water.
Yeah?
Yeah, we were at the Four Roses Distillery literally 8 years ago today, me and my wife. This popped up in my Facebook memories, which is great because I've drank all of them away. So I like to have a reminder of the places that we've been and things that we've done.
The things you had to drink.
But a lot of the distilleries this time of year will shut down their production usually for a couple weeks. And this wonderful little country bumpkin was explaining to us, and she's like, well, just the river where we get our water gets, just a little warm. And we use the water to cool the whiskey down, and as I'm sure you can't use hot water for cooling. That is factually
that's an
correct.
absolute-
Hashtag logic. Yes, that works.
absolute truth.
There it is.
They speak from the heart in Kentucky, and they speak truth.
I loved her. She was fantastic.
We'll also take a little beer-driven trip right up the highway from us to Magnolia, Texas, to one of my favorite breweries in the world, the Lone Pint Brewery. Today
Amazing beer.
we'll be tasting one of their limited beers. It's their El Cuero White Stout. And Ian told me the other day that you've actually had this before.
I actually
haven't
have. So I've been playing bass in a country band recently. We'll be playing up there again at the end of this month.
you? Oh, cool.
And at the Lone Pint Brewery, which is a nice little setup, nice little outdoor setup. And they have all the taps set up outside. It's really nice. So I've had this. I can't wait to see what you think of it.
All right, I'm looking forward to it. Plus, gin and vodka martinis, obviously, and there are several different vodkas, several different gins. So we'll be talking about all of that. Drinking news on the program today. Our drinking news teaser headline is very simple: food fight.
I love it.
That's our teaser headline. So we'll be looking forward to getting to that. New cigars to watch for. We will have an update for you on that. Molson Coors is discontinuing 11 beers. You'll have to see if any of your favorites are going away.
But they're keeping the cold activated
That's
can.
right.
I bet.
Well, you keep what works.
Look, guys, we can either get rid of the can, or we can get rid of some of these beers
Yeah. Let's get rid of the beers.
in the price budget.
Plus, we will also, if we have time to get to it today, I thought with cocktail masters in the room, I have a list of the 8 cocktails that bartenders order on their nights off.
Oh.
So I thought it'd be interesting
do we now?
to compare this list to actual, real, living
okay.
tenders of bar and see if they're anywhere
I'm excited
close
for
to.
this,
Yeah,
yes.
so we'll be getting to all of that on the show today. And right now we're going to get to our first martini, which Chris was kind enough to mix up for us just as the show was beginning.
Great in here. He came in and immediately started zesting these lemons.
Oh,
and it just smells so
and you
delicious
can
in
get a
here.
nice little nose of the zested lemon right off of this. Can't
Yeah, I just couldn't wait.
you? I love that.
But I, like you said, this has been in the planning for a while, and the opportunity came up to work with Sean and do this so that we're in basically laboratory conditions here.
Okay. Because we think of this as our lab.
This is
Yeah,
our lab.
yeah, exactly. Well, because it'd be real easy to like do some vodkas and some gins, and then someone's just gonna yell about how like we didn't use their favorite vodka, or like we
gotcha,
didn't use the right
gotcha.
gin,
Yep,
or like
yep.
there's the chance like I just go buy like a shitty vodka and like a really nice gin just to
Right.
like influence us.
Sure, yeah.
We cannot do this now. I have the man who distilled these. They are all the same exact mash bill off the same exact still. Everything is identical except for botanicals and what makes gin.
So this is Fox and Seeker products all the way through.
Yes,
sir.
All right, this is exciting.
So
And this-
it is as neutral as we can get. This is comparing strictly vodka to gin.
Okay, and the first martini you made is a gin martini,
Yes,
correct?
it's a gin martini with their Meridian gin, which is their slightly more floral profile. Sean can tell you all about it. I've tasted it. I know it tastes good.
Yeah, if you're a gin fan, this is a phenomenal gin to differentiate your profile, but it runs forward with hibiscus, chamomile, rosemary. They're the-
Hibiscus is what I was feeling
Yeah,
in there
you-
that I
yeah,
couldn't
you do
quite
get that,
peg.
for
There was
sure.
there was a little funky something in there, funky in a good way.
There
but,
is,
and I was
yeah.
like, what is that? And I couldn't nail it until you said it.
Yeah, the hibiscus and the chamomile play really nicely together. Rosemary and juniper are used to kind of level out the sweetness in the gin standalone, and then Chris is the best at combining ingredients with that to elevate the whole thing.
So as much as I enjoy gin, I struggle sometimes with the gin that is so juniper forward.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like I'm trying to drink a juniper bush,
Yep.
which is, you talk about, drinking pine cones in an IPA
Yeah.
that's got too much
Too much of the hop.
too much hops that isn't balanced. And that's how I am about some gins. It's like I enjoy overall, but then it's like a little too junipery. So this, I wanted to say, is much more balanced. I feel like there is a definite floral, going on here. But as you mentioned, the hibiscus is kind of the first thing that you get, and the lemon zest thing really. pulls
What do you
all
call it
together.
when you just squeeze the lemon oil, kind of pop it in
It's,
there?
it's called expressing.
When-
lemon.
that little bit of lemon expression in there really brightens
Yeah.
it up.
Yeah.
makes it
yeah,
nice.
it's great.
Yeah, so on all of the like formally dry martinis that we're doing here, we're going to be doing lemon over the top, both of the dirties. I have some high quality olives here. I've got a fresh pack of olive brine. We're good to go.
Now, I want to ask you this question because I make vodka martinis at home.
Kangaroos.
And I'm always looking for really good olive juice, olive brine to put in them.
Yeah.
My favorite is always when I can get it from the actual jar that the olives were in. But I'll buy, I make a few more martinis than that will allow for. So I buy some of the olive juice. I've just noticed that some of it I like a lot better than others. Do you have recommendations about what the best olive juice is to use?
I mean, I think the best is obviously kind of subjective. For me, the brand that we're using today, a brand called Filthy, they were kind of like industry lead. Like they were doing cold pressed olive juice. Like you're going to see like we're not going to put a whole lot in, and these things are going to look like we pulled them out of Galveston Bay.
Okay. Hopefully, there's no medical waste floating on the top.
And it's just like incredibly like beautiful natural olive flavor. So definitely one that I recommend. And they just redid their packaging into literally this little 8-ounce like pouch.
That's awesome.
That I think is really, really awesome.
Very user
And that's
friendly.
with something you can easily reopen.
Yeah.
Now, is that something that is easy enough to find, or is that something that a bartender and mixologist like you can get their hands on, but might be tougher for me?
I think it's going to be more and more in the market. So Filthy was around for quite a while, and we're at like Specs. They specialized in olives and particularly cherries. And I think they wound up selling the company and getting some like more funding behind it. So that's when they came up with this new packaging, new logo. But I saw their cherries at Kroger the other day.
Okay.
Oh,
So I'd imagine you're going to be seeing this more and more coming to like your bigger your Specs and Total and places like that. But I love these guys and what they do.
Something we'll be looking for then, because I'm always on the search for a better olive juice.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So before we get much further down the path with martinis, the show is also very much about cigars, and this is usually the time of the program where I asked Ian if you have smoked anything interesting lately.
Man, did I. I went over to Casa this morning. They're still not ready with their list of best cheap cigars.
I'm looking
I
forward
keep
to it.
bugging them
though.
about it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward
Keep
to
bugging
it.
them about it. I can't wait to see what they say. But I picked up a Padrón, actually.
Standard Padrón or a fancy
Padrón
Padrón?
Damaso.
Okay.
Damaso. I think I'm saying that right. This is a number 8. This is a 5.5 by 46, so not a very big cigar. The wrapper's Connecticut, binder and filler Nicaragua. The appearance on this light brown with a slightly almost chalky kind of look to it towards the head. It's mostly smooth with some veins going through, makes it slightly lumpy but mostly smooth. Firm feel overall. Nice looking cigar. Two bands.
One thing I've noticed about Padrón is that, when you buy an Anniversario or one of their, top line things, those cigars have a tendency, that wrapper is smooth
Impeccable.
as silk.
Impeccable.
When you buy one of the regular line, it can get a little lumpy,
Yeah.
which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but, it's just interesting to see the
Well, when
difference.
you have somebody sitting there separating and
Yeah.
grading all the different tobacco leaves, going, this is going on those cigars.
definitely they let the lumpy ones go on the ones that are
The
not
pre-light sniff
quite
on
as
this is
expensive.
creamy, nutty, slightly spicy, some cedar, some campfire, some traditional, very kind of traditional tobacco things going on was the number one. The pre-light draw on this, I used a clip. It was an effortless draw. Pretty firm feeling cigar overall, so to get an effortless draw through that, I mean, the roll must have been fantastic. I got some macadamia nut, campfire coffee, slightly spicy kind of flavors going on. The initial light on this, big spices with some pepper. It wasn't spicy like just pepper blast. It was spicy like big. Sometimes Connecticut wrappers can have that kind of generic spicy kind of flavor that's not just pepper, that kind of thing. And this had a lot of that.
Okay.
And generic as a descriptor, not as a like it's not good or anything.
Not implying that it's cheap.
Right. The initial light on this, big spices with pepper, coffee, some nutty spices, a little kiss of mint right off the bat of that. So actually quite a lot of profile from the initial light on this.
Sounds like it, yeah.
Sometimes you get a little more one-dimensional things, but this had quite a bit of stuff going on. Retrohale's peppery and sweet, the first third of this. Big, creamy, spicy coffee, wood, damp hay, mint, slightly fruity overall. The Retrohale is very peppery and toast and wood. That actually settled down a little bit later, but it was a pretty big Retrohale right off the bat. Solid ash, perfect burn, by the way.
Yeah.
Absolutely perfect burn. The second third of this, spices level out and make room for sweet spiciness and oak. Fermented hay and campfire remain in there. Solid ash, perfect burn. The last third of this flavors kind of coalesce into a sweet, spicy casserole of goodness.
I like
I don't know how to make this
spicy casserole of goodness.
Yes,
That's
it was
good.
It was really nice. It was
Yeah.
like all the flavors just kind of at the very
I think that's
last third of this kind of just came together and really created this beautiful.
You know what would make
bouquet
a
of
sweet,
flavor.
spicy casserole of goodness even better?
What's that?
Some Nicaraguan pepper blast.
Oh,
There you go.
yes, that
The
would
name
work.
of my new metal band.
Yeah, and I was going to say.
Also the title track.
I think what was that again?
Sweet spicy casserole, a sweet spicy casserole of goodness.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a series on Netflix.
or a Pink Floyd song.
And it left
Yeah.
it left a bit of a fruity and minty aftertaste with a little oak dryness on it. It was really really nice cigar. I enjoyed it. This the price to quality on this is a $12.50 cigar.
Yeah.
It's an expensive cigar for a small one.
Mm-hmm.
I did look at the other sizes. The other sizes go up appropriately in price. So so they all seem to be, for the amount of tobacco you're getting, they're all kind of in the same price range. I give it a 6, though. I really enjoyed
Wow.
it.
So-
It's smoked for almost an hour.
At a 6, you're saying if it had been
Oh, I'd have spent more. Yeah,
You'd have
I'd have
spent
spent
14 or
12. I'd have
15?
spent I spent $14 to $15 easily on it.
Wow.
at
So it
12
was
and a
that
half.
good?
And I would have been happy with it. It would have
That's
gotten
impressive.
a 5 at $14
That's
pretty
impressive.
easily. So I was really happy with it. I also wanted to point out I added a picture in there that hopefully Adam will bring up if he hasn't already. That has the cigar that I smoked this week for my show, but also has the cigar that I'll be smoking this weekend on the river. This is your
this is
the
Gordo.
JFR 8x80 Maduro. So just so you're looking at this in my hand next to each other, so you can see the
You
size
see
of
the
this.
difference between the two cigars. Yeah.
Yeah, the picture will come up. We got a little bit of lag, but once you see it in my hand compared to the cigar that I just smoked, which is a normal cigar size, not like a giant cigar, but man, yeah, I can't wait. That's going to be a 4-hour plus cigar easily.
And will you be on the river the whole time?
So I've brought this cigar on the river before, and yeah, there it is on the thing right now. I've brought this cigar on the river before, and I've gotten in, done a 4-hour float, and gotten out, and still smoking a cigar.
Oh, that's great.
It's absolutely fantastic because then you get on a river, you bring one cigar.
And how is the cigar? Like,
It's a good cigar.
Yeah.
It's a good cigar. Now, that being said, it's not a very expensive cigar. Actually, that whole, that 8x80 there is like $10.
So it's about the same price as the one.
It's
you
a lot of
smoked.
tobacco, though.
And it lasts about 10
and it
times
lasts
longer.
forever.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's nice because, like I said, you bring one cigar, and if for some reason you dump it in the river, well, it's a $10 cigar. It's not that big a deal.
Well, I kind of went to the opposite end of the spectrum from you this week. And I smoked something that, well, let's just say the art of deception is in play with the cigar I had this week. The first part of that is that I bought it a little while back, thinking that I was getting some kind of great deal on a 5-pack of Brick House cigars. Brick House is a great cigar,
Yeah,
man. And I was like, wow, that's a great price. And I bought it. Well, I wasn't quite paying as close of attention as I should have been because the cigar is not a Brick House cigar. It's a brick and mortar cigar. Yeah. And it wasn't until I pulled one out of the humidor that I realized my mistake. I got it, I unwrapped it, I put it in the humidor, never noticed until I pulled it out of the humidor and I was looking at the band, which, by the way, is the same color scheme as Brick House.
Oh, so they
cigars.
meant to do
Oh
that.
yeah, oh yeah. That's what I'm saying. There's a little deception.
Oh, you
involved.
got.
There's
Yeah.
trademarks.
The other thing about the brick and mortar is it's deceptive because they're not available at brick and mortar stores. You can only get them online. Yeah, so doesn't that seem kind of weird? Anyway, for a brand that's called Brick and Mortar, sold only online. All right, so the cigar features a Habano Criollo wrapper with Nicaraguan binder and Honduran and Nicaraguan filler, and it was rolled in Honduras. The pre-light on it was earthy, some grassy notes, a little bit of wood. I used a punch, and I lit it up and got a small black pepper blast to start with, not like intense, but it was there. And then the first third of this brick and mortar was better than I was expecting, quite frankly. Black pepper was the dominant note. I did get a little oakiness and some earth. It left a little bit of pepper tang on my tongue that was actually quite enjoyable, and it was in the retrohale as well. And I'm guessing that's from the Criollo wrapper, which can be a little spicy. Burn was good, and the ash held on reasonably well. Second, third didn't change too much. I got a little bit of baking spice along with the pepper, and it continued to burn surprisingly well. The earthy flavor ramped up a little bit in the final third. I got a little bit of citrus zest, but black pepper was the predominant note on this thing all the way through. I will say I was very pleasantly surprised at the construction. It was well wrapped. Some Criollo wrapped cigars I've had in the past have a tendency to burn a little crooked because of the nature of that particular wrapper leaf.
I'm looking at the picture right now.
Yeah.
And if you weren't actually reading the actual words on the label,
you would think it was a brick house,
it's a brick
wouldn't you?
house,
Yeah,
yes.
I'm telling you. And but nevertheless, it actually burned. It actually burned really straight. Even though, like I said, the Criollo wrapper, I've had some like the CAO Criollos, which I like, have a tendency to burn crooked most of the time, and you're always doing a little tending to them. So this one did not do that. It burned really, really straight. All in all, it was a pretty pleasant smoke. I had one of these about a year ago when I first got the little 5-pack. And I remember, to be honest, not liking it all that much. And so I was really kind of prepared. I thought, okay, today I can do one of those that will be a sort of rebuttal to those people that say we like everything, because I'll come in and say, you know what? Yeah, not good, not worth it. However, it was pretty pleasant, not overly complex, but a nice medium to full body, and the pepper note was actually quite enjoyable. I will say I'm not 100% sure. This may be a Chris Hart special because I'm not 100% sure you can get these anymore. I went on to the website where I bought it to look up, the price and information on the JR website, and they seem to be sold out of it. So
Okay.
I don't know whether they were clearing them out or whether there are more on the way. But I will say for a dog walker or a lawnmower cigar, it really wasn't bad. And here's the thing. It was $2.50.
Oh.
Yeah. I am an idiot for thinking that I bought a brick house instead of
We've all done that
at that
before.
price. Come on, you're not going to buy a brick house for $2.50. Something's wrong. Immediately check closer because something's wrong, right? But ultimately, it smoked pretty well considering its price. So believe it or not, I'm going to give it a 5.5 on price to quality. I mean, it wasn't
at sub $3.
at sub $3, and it was like I'm actually looking forward to the other 3 that are in my humidor. So. It wound up being pretty cool,
There you
I
go.
guess.
Brick Mouse Cigars.
Yeah, It reminds me, you see these things on like BuzzFeed and sometimes of the places across like different parts of the world that like will be McDonald's, but one letter is different because it's McDonald's or something.
Well,
like like they change one letter, but they still use the golden arches and try to fool you into thinking that was a McDonald's.
When my brother was overseas, he sent me a picture of a guy that had a full tracksuit on that said Abibos.
Nice. I love it. All right. Well, I really, as you can tell, didn't like that martini at all. since
Right,
it's just
terrible.
That's very
completely
good.
gone. So we'll get into, in our next segment, we'll get into doing a little comparison here and trying more things made with this Fox and Seeker spirits, both gin and vodka, as we continue with the Great Martini Challenge on Smoking and Toasting, and we'll be right back. I'm serious. I was so ready to go. This cigar was terrible. It wasn't, and I was like, welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. I love the sounds of this show.
That is a beautiful thing.
Today's show, just hearing Chris stirring that up.
Right as we're jumping in, I just want to give a shout out to Ralph Ulrich, who's watching. He was a legendary proprietor of the Pick and Pack way back in the day.
Pick and
Anybody
pack,
remembers
baby.
that?
Yeah, there you go. Hey, the U.S. cigar market, we're having like another cigar boom. It's happening
I was
right now.
just having that discussion at the cigar shop earlier
Yep.
today.
It has not only started off with an extremely robust 2021, which I don't know. Here's my theory. Everybody emptied their humidors in 2020.
I did.
And so come January or February of this year, everybody started needing to stock back up. That's my theory. Plus, when things started to open a little bit in some states, in what was it, April, May, things started to kind of slowly open back up. People were so anxious to get back out and go someplace and have a cigar in the cigar lounge again, that I think all of that has contributed. But one way or another, the 2021 calendar year is off to a brisk start. In May, imports just released by the U.S. government were 39 million. That is double the amount of cigars that were shipped in May of 2020. So May of this year, double May of last year. That's a kind of a big deal.
Wow.
Now, also, if you think about it, there's some interesting factors. May of last year, probably most of the cigar stores were ordering very cautiously.
Yeah.
Because they didn't know
what
this was going to look
They were
like.
ordering cautiously, but they weren't getting a lot of stuff, too. That was that part of it.
And so think about it. If you ordered cautiously in May of last year, your humidor stock probably got a lot lower across the next 6 months than you normally would allow it to get, because you were being careful, not knowing how this was all going to work. And so by the time you turned around and reordered, a lot of that's impacting 2021. So we'll see how long this cigar boom lasts, but it is not unlike the cigar boom of the 90s, if you remember back when. And let's hope it doesn't have the same impact as that, because back in the 90s, it got really hard to find good cigars because everybody was, cranking them out so fast that quality suffered a little bit. But anyway, 2020 was a year of pauses and stops and uncertainty. Some cigar factories were forced to close, but this year things are full speed ahead. Nicaragua continuing their dominance as the country that is just shipping cigars like nobody's business. There were 20.3 million Nicaraguan cigars shipped in May of 2021. That's up 62% from 12.5 in May of 2020. So
I got to ask, I've never really gotten into cigars, so hearing you guys talk about is fascinating. Just the levels of the layers to the cigar world,
By the way,
how they're constructed.
We have no idea what we're talking about, just so you know. So,
hey, you fooled me. Yeah,
we act like it, though.
Yeah.
But let's say I wanted to get into the cigar world. What is a good approach for someone who's never been into cigars that wants to? What do you look for?
Well, I would say you'd want to start with milder blends, so you don't knock yourself in the mouth right away with something too heavy. I would recommend one that I recommend to people who are kind of looking for a first cigar is the Oliva Connecticut. I think it's
that's
very
a great one.
Very tasty, very toasty, lighter bodied cigar, and there are a number of others. That's just the first one that comes to mind.
Had the Arturo Fuente Hemingway series short story. See, so when you're getting into cigars, first off, don't grab gigantic cigars. You're not going to finish them.
Right, grab little ones.
You're just not. It's
shorter ones,
smaller cigars, so you can kind of adjust your palate to it and those kind of things. If you decide you really like them, then you can get bigger versions of that cigar. But the smaller cigars are generally one of the biggest issues I find with people who are just getting into it is I just don't want to make that time commitment. They make tins of good cigars that have
that
5
small,
or 10 small sticks in there. Now the flavor profile does change when you have a smaller stick or a bigger stick because of the wrapper to filler ratio and things like that. But getting into some of those, like the Perdomo 10th Anniversary is another great, you can get it in all kinds of sizes, a fantastic stick and mild enough.
Yeah, or
for anybody to start with.
One of those,
Connecticut.
the light wrapper nubs is perfect.
Right.
The Connecticut nub.
Yeah, you're in for 30 minutes. You get to experience it. It's well made. It's a good intro and sets you back $5 or $6.
Right. Rocky Patel, Connecticut is another great one. So then what I would recommend is that the cigar store proprietor is your friend. If you buy 2 or 3 different kinds of cigars and smoke them, and then go, okay, the one I liked the best was this. Then go back in and say, hey, I'm fairly new to this, but I tried several cigars, and the one I liked the best was this.
Take a picture of that wrapper.
What should I try next? These guys know their stuff. Yeah. They really do. And, they may be, used to smoking, much heavier blends or whatever for their particular palate, particularly if they've been at it for a while, but they know which of the lighter ones are good. And I say lighter ones just simply because it's a good way to start. You may find that you very quickly enjoy a medium or a medium full. I
was really trying to make it to this episode without saying good things about Alan Denny, but fuck.
you know,
you're gonna make us do it, aren't you?
Sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. Alan, who runs the Galveston Island Cigar Lounge, is just, I mean, he's one of those guys. Go in, say, I really like this. What else would I like?
Yeah.
And he will have a number of choices for you, and he won't just necessarily try to sell you the most expensive thing he can sell you, which is...
And don't be shy about talking to the guy at the cigar shop. I promise you, that guy wants you to come back and buy cigars.
Yeah.
And he's not going to just try to sell you stuff. They're not going to. That's not the way they operate.
That's absolutely the best advice. Is like the people who work in cigar stores are actually passionate about tobacco. Use them as a resource. Absolutely.
It's kind of like
that's what I did when I first got into it. I was working in Uptown Park. I went to Uptown Cigars. Guy working the counter was a guy named Jamie. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I drink red wine, and this is what I like. He's like, here you go.
Yeah. This will go with it.
Love it.
And it's a lot like asking a bartender about a cocktail. He'll say, well, what do you like? And if you tell him what you like, he'll go, okay, try this. And it's very very similar in the cigar world.
Not like I need another hobby, but
No, but to enjoy a cigar once in a while, especially with a drink. The nice thing about gin, martinis, things like that, gin is unless it's incredibly juniper forward, gin goes with most cigars, especially the Connecticut's on the lighter side, because the flavors don't fight each other. I don't know that they as much complement each other, but they don't fight each other, so you can really enjoy both at the same time.
And as much as I love IPA beers, they aren't necessarily great to pair with cigars. Depends on which one. Right. But if you're talking about, martinis or vodka drinks, or you're talking about heavier beers like stouts and porters, those things generally pair really, really
it's
well.
harder not to.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
my wife and I went to Scotland 3 years ago. It was pre-pandemic, and went to the Dalmore. And the Dalmore has a cigar
malt.
blend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
cigar malt is outstanding.
much sweeter on the front end than their typical Scotch offerings.
That is a wonderful, wonderful Scotch, and I still have a tiny bit of it left from the bottle that we
And
split.
beautiful distillery.
Right,
too.
and that was
gorgeous.
made by a guy who likes a medium to full cigar as well, so that sweetness on the front allows it to overcome the punch of a bigger flavored cigar and let it blend with it. And I will tell you, it is masterful with the cigar. I
really
used to
is.
buy the cigar malt in the first iteration of it years ago, and then it went away, and then they came back, and it's double the price.
Yeah,
It's like $150 now for a bottle.
But that and a good medium to full cigar still form like Voltron.
Yeah, the first one was what? It was wasn't that the Grand Reserva? Was that the one that it was?
No, it was just called cigar malt.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I remember they had a 15-year Grand Reserva that was limited for a while.
that was, I think, in between the...
Right, I think in between the cigar malt iterations.
Okay, so it was the second unofficial edition. All right, I'll take it.
Okay. So
I wasn't crazy.
Chris, what are we drinking here?
So this is going to be just a classic dry vodka martini. This is going to be with Fox and Seeker's Discovery series, where they use a slightly different yeast.
That has got a real different flavor profile to it for the vodka. It almost doesn't. And I know you're going to tell me vodka doesn't have a taste, but
I will never tell you.
It almost doesn't taste like vodka.
No, we had a conversation about this. That's not a
Okay, so let's
there's
go
no
there.
condescension on vodka coming up here.
So let's go there. Vodka thought of as a neutral spirit, right?
Correct.
By many. So wouldn't that mean that in its purest form, vodka doesn't necessarily have its own stronger flavors?
So, several ways to approach
I love this, by
my
the way. This is
commentary
great.
here.
Yeah.
Can I just... I want to tell you that we found out just prior to the show that this man does this. This is his company, and it's grain to glass in Texas here.
That's correct. Yeah,
Love
100%
it.
Texas grains, mashed, fermented, distilled, all in our distillery. So to the vodka question, neutral spirit, a lot of that, vodka has become somewhat of a commodity, or mostly a commodity in the United States. And
You can buy it pretty cheap.
yeah, and a lot of that is driven, for a long time, the TTB, the federal regulatory arm, they have a whole section of their code that defines a spirit. So if you put vodka on the label, it tells you how certain parameters you have to meet in your process.
Right.
And for decades, it said it needs to be colorless, odorless, flavorless. Basically, it has to be nothing.
Has to be like that's neutral.
And that was rescinded recently. They removed that statement
okay.
because they realized that, you know, the minimum requirement to distill is 190 proof off of the equipment to meet vodka standards. The maximum theoretical is like 193. So there's 3 proof you have to play with as a distiller. And in that 3 proof, you can add a ton of character on the low end or very little character at the high end. And really finding that balance is what we've tried to achieve in our spirits. But without charcoal filtration, without back sweetening, you can leave a ton of character in the vodka.
Chris, what is in this martini besides the vodka?
Vermouth.
So there's how much vermouth?
This one is a 1/4 ounce to 3 ounces of vodka.
So 1/4 ounce vermouth, 3 ounces vodka. So that just the vermouth makes it dry.
The vermouth, yeah. So like, what I tend to do when I make vodka martinis, I add a little bit less vermouth. So the gin that we're doing today is going to be a 6-to-1. These are going to be 12-to-1.
Okay.
And the reason for that is that inherent like neutrality of vodka, because you don't have a bunch of botanicals that are like playing off of the botanicals that are
Right.
You know,
In the
like
vermouth, yeah.
I think a lot of people, right, like when you think about a martini, you're like, oh, it's a 2 or 3 ingredient cocktail, right? It's gin, vermouth. I like a little bit of orange bitters as a node to the classic, but I think that's kind of selling it short, because as I'm sure we'll talk about when we get into the gins, like your selection of botanicals, every single one of those is an ingredient. So your hibiscus, your lavender, like all of that, that's part of your ingredient. So this gin plus your base spirit is now like a 9 to 10 ingredient,
Right.
plus all the
Right.
botanicals that are in the vermouth that you choose, and all of a sudden, like you're actually looking at like a 25 to 30 ingredient cocktail,
Which can get pretty
and every
complicated.
bit of that matters. Now with vodka, there's not all those botanicals, so the complexity that you do have in the vermouth tends to shine through a little bit more because there's not all the botanicals like bouncing off of it. So I like to do a little bit less. I think it still complements the cocktail very, very well. I still think vermouth makes a better vodka martini, but in like very restrained portions.
Back to the concept of vodka not necessarily having its flavors. I've told the story on the show before, but I was in Las Vegas once with my best friend Dave, and we wound up having dinner at a restaurant in one of the casinos that's called Red Square. And it's a Russian-themed restaurant. And one of the things they offer there is a flight of vodkas. And when they deliver the flight of vodkas, it comes in a brick of red ice. It's obviously food coloring been added to the water, and they made this brick of red ice with 6 holes in it, and into each of the 6 holes is
That's
a test
cool.
tube of vodka, and there's 6 different vodkas, and I remember them being distinctly different.
Yeah.
That's
from
great
each other.
presentation.
Yeah, it
something
is great
fun.
presentation. And nice
Something
and full.
fun we should do before we're out of here. The Discovery Series vodka and our commercially distributed vodka side by side. They're made with the same grain bill, fermented to the same ABV, distilled to the same parameters. The only difference is the yeast strain used to ferment.
Okay.
And they're completely different vodkas.
So you're wanting us to do more tasting.
Yeah, whenever time permits.
The worst.
If I had to twist your arm
Oh,
on
what a
that.
job we have, man.
Yeah.
If
Sometimes
I
people
must.
come in and they're like, oh, they want us to taste stuff. And yes, we will do that for sure. I really, really like this.
It's a very clean kangaroo.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Are kangaroos considered to be clean animals? I don't even know this.
There's
Like,
no
you know,
fleas or nothing.
like you know how some animals, like, you think that they're like not necessarily that filthy, but they are. You know, it's just like but kangaroos, I don't
So
know.
I will tell you this: a couple things. If you're making martinis at home, especially with a new vodka or a new gin, taste your spirit first.
Yes, that's a
Take
good
some-
idea. That way you know what you're dealing
Also,
with.
a good excuse to sneak in an extra shot. But taste it and don't shoot it, because everything sucks when you shoot it.
Right,
You know,
right,
like
yeah.
that's just. But stop and taste it and see. Okay, what is going to?
I will say, under the universal law of Bruce Stark, we can basically end the episode, because he said here that don't forget that martinis are like women's breast. 1 is never enough. 3 is too many. 2 is perfect. But this also reminds one of my favorite quotes about martinis is from the socialite Dorothy Parker, where she goes, "I have 1 martini at dinner, 2 martinis at most." After 3, I'm under the table. After 4, I'm under my host.
That was Dorothy Parker. That's a great
And
quote.
just for the record, we have 4. We have 4 today, so we're going to see where this goes when the cameras are cut off.
Yeah, all right. Well, it's just it's a good thing Matt Booth isn't here because he'd be like eyeing Ian up really big time. So, all right, this is fantastic. I love it. And Ian has now poured us our first beer, which I have a feeling we almost might need a palate cleanse before we go to, but because look,
You
at
almost
it.
need a spoon for this.
Whoa.
Yeah, this
I
is
mean,
an
look at the
Imperial-
viscosity of this.
An
This is
Imperial
insane.
Berliner Weiss. But Ian, do you mind picking up that can and reading what is involved in this?
Yeah,
particular-
according to
Oh.
the Surgeon General, women should not drink alcoholic beverages during pregnancy because of birth defects.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I
I
feel
picked
so
that
much,
up in the nose.
I
Yeah.
feel so, feel so much better informed.
That's the
now.
best response ever.
Smells like bubble gum and birth defects.
This show's going downhill. All right, Imperial
And
Berliner
quick.
Weiss with dragon fruit, passion fruit, mango, pineapple, pink guava, key lime, tangerine, toasted coconut, marshmallows,
Yeah,
and
whatever.
milk sugar.
Yeah,
What
there's
are
so much.
marshmallows doing?
There's so much in there that I was watching Ian turn the can back and forth as he read the list. But
Yeah.
this,
Well,
to
Mr.
me, this
Twirly
looks
can
really
over there.
interesting.
Yeah, Mr. Here, I'm manual twirly gig here.
Yeah, but
I
as
can't
you
do
can
this at
tell-
the end of the show, but right now I can do this pretty well.
As you can tell, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, has gone big on Florida here because this
I
actually
do
looks.
love the
I'm-
yard flamingo.
And I think that's the Miami Vice font that they
Yes,
used on
yes.
on there. So
put that up on the can
now
here.
I'm a fan of Berliner Weiss. It's my favorite sort of style of sour. What's your thoughts on this, Ian? Have you tasted this yet?
I think you know when you get a smoothie and it melts and just becomes this kind of like thick liquid?
Mm-hmm.
That's what this is, but also tart.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
this makes my whole mouth water, like almost to the point of eyes watering. And it's all of that in kind of a good way because it's pretty good. It's pulpy though.
Yeah. It is pulpy.
I'm like, I don't want to
pulpy
like
is a
it, but I
great word.
really do.
so you don't want to like it. Is that because you're not a fan of sours in general?
No, I mean, I just that much
Like,
stuff in a beer.
Everything I
just-
could describe about this beer is
Like-
going to make it sound not good, but it actually
this
is
awkwardly
quite good.
opaque
and
Jamba
it is-
Juice looking nonsense, and like it's just so good.
I will just say it is very Florida. Like it's very tropical. It's
very
almost
tropical.
It's almost pina colada like, but there's more flavors going
Yeah.
on than a pina colada.
It tastes like an amazing, like, you know how ices have that little carbonation in there that makes
Yeah.
them a little bit zing, right? So it has that, and it has a little tartness to it, but it really is like a melted slushy. It's like it's hard to describe because
Yeah, the aroma and the taste don't play together, but they're perfect.
Yes,
together. It's
I
weird.
totally agree.
I don't get
yeah,
the,
like the nose is super bubblegummy.
yeah.
yeah, nailed it.
But you don't really get that necessarily
No, you don't.
on the palate at all.
No,
Pineapple.
I think that's just like that.
Is
that,
pineapple in here?
That
It's
like
gotta be
marshmallow, like spun candied
get
sugar
pineapple.
kind of thing.
It's
big
all in there,
Yeah.
Ian. I don't think there's a fruit you didn't mention when you were
What is
reading all of it.
kitchen sink fruit?
I don't know. That's pretty good. Ian, does it say on the can what the ABV is of this?
I don't see an ABV on here at all.
I've never had an Imperial Berliner Weiss, I think, before this. So
Be interested. I can't taste any booziness in it because
No.
it's covered
Yeah.
up by everything else.
by every fruit known to man.
I'll tell you. So like I said, if you're turned off by the descriptors of this beer, try it anyway because it's so bizarrely good for what it is.
Westbrook Brewing Company's Maximum Florida Imperial Berliner
I would
Weiss.
literally buy this just for the can.
Yeah. Oh, the can is terrific.
6% says the Google machine.
6%. Okay, so
Ask
that's
the
not
Google.
That's not massive. And
It's massive for a Berliner.
For
well,
Berliner
maybe-
Weiss, which are
maybe so, 'cause
usually
Berliner,
4%.
yeah, 4
-ish.
something. So
Yeah.
so it may take a little while for that to multiply.
Can I
guess.
mention to St. Arnold that I really missed the boiler room, by the way?
Yeah,
I just
well,
want boiler room.
so when we had our last guest from St. Arnold on, he hinted that they might be doing it again as a limited release. They used to come out in the bombers, and that was so good.
$5?
Man,
It was
I
amazing.
remember back in the days when I was just so budget conscious when it came to what beer I was buying.
Read here, broke.
Yeah, exactly. I was so broken. Like you would look down the bombers and go, "Oh, those all look so good." That one's $5.
You know what else is $5, by the way? Real ale, Wee Heavy.
Oh,
that's a good one.
Real Ale Wee
Yeah.
Heavy is good.
Yeah,
Oh.
Real Ale Wee Heavy is fantastic.
I like those guys.
It's
in
called
the gym.
Real Heavy is what it's called.
Real
It
Heavy,
is a
okay.
Wee Heavy. But it's
Well,
called
we'll have to get that one on the show because I may be able to afford to buy one and bring them in. So, all right, let's take a break and we will come right back. We will do a little more official martini tasting as the Great Martini Challenge continues. And oddly enough, it looks like we've all emptied our glasses. I have just like. Oddly enough, it looks like we've all emptied our glasses. And we'll be right back with more of the Great Martini Challenge on Smokin' and Toastin', show number 245. Halfway to 300.
Takes you back.
Welcome back. It is Smokin' and Toastin'. It is our program number 245. We're all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Today is our Great Martini Challenge, and we are brought to you, by the way, by the fine folks at mycigarshirts.com. Great shirts on the web for cigar lovers. mycigarshirts.com. Be sure to check them out. Okay, so the Great Martini Challenge was really kind of designed to give us a chance to argue with each other about gin martinis versus vodka martinis. But I'm curious, and I want to ask this of our guests, which martinis sell the most?
That's a great question.
Do people order vodka martinis more often or gin?
For me, it's gin, actually.
Yeah? Okay.
And that's not true for, I'm sure globally, it's probably vodka
Really?
at this point. But I think in the people who are going out in like search of good cocktails, I think the gin martini is continuing its resurgence that it's been done over the last 10 years.
And I will mention that it was Chris, by the way, that he's already improved the martinis that I make at home because he convinced me to stir them rather than shake them.
Oh, same here.
Yeah, and that was, I always shook, I was following James Bond's advice, martini shaken, not stirred. But you made me realize that the flavors actually blend together better if you stir rather than shake. Remind me of why that is.
So it just has to do with like the viscosity of the cocktail, and I'm gonna switch that paradigm ever so slightly. So the common heuristic is, if it has citrus, you shake it. If it's all spirit, you stir it. But that also leaves a little bit of like gray area in the case of like dirty martinis. Olives are not a citrus; they're this interesting thing. So the advanced version of that is anything that makes your drink cloudy, whether that's olive brine, whether that's dairy, egg whites, creams, milks. If you cannot see through your drink when you build it, that's when you shake it. So I think actually the dirty martini is better when you shake it.
So that is what I usually make, is the dirty martini.
Yeah. So I think specifically dry martinis, because they do have that clarity once you build them. It's just literally a clear spirit, a clear vermouth. That you want to keep the integrity. Olive brine, you can kind of go either way, just depending on your olive. But I think shaking it actually kind of wakes up some of those olive flavors, as we will see.
So speaking of dry martini, I can see all the way through this. Hi, Ian.
I love how when you express the lemon on top, you get just this little fine film of that oil from the lemon on there.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a gin martini, and you made this with the London Dry?
With
from
the London Dry. So I figured the most neutral kind of way that we could do this is doing exactly like what people think gin is, which is the slightly more juniper forward style. Now there is an entire gin market out there that focus on botanicals other than juniper, much in like the style of the Meridian, the one that we first had. That was really sort of pioneered in 1999 by Hendrix.
Is there any orange in this, by the way?
There is just a touch of orange bitters.
It's very nice. This is
That's the single biggest thing I think you can do to upgrade your gin martini outside of making sure your vermouth is fresh. It's just a couple drops of orange bitters. Really kind of binds everything together.
So talk to me about fresh vermouth. Is a bottle that's been sitting in my bar for too long maybe not fresh? Is that what you're getting
It is
at?
absolutely not fresh. So vermouth is literally a wine product. It started as a way in Champagne to get rid of wine that was starting to go a little bit bad. So they just added, some wormwood and other, herbs and spices to it, and they aromatized it. They added some brandy and fortified it, and made this thing called vermouth, which is German for wormwood.
Okay.
And so
that's where vermouth came from.
like, yes, it is a fortified wine, but it is still wine. It can still very much go bad. If you leave it on your back bar for 6 months, it's going to go rancid. And then you go to make your martini and go, well, vermouth sucks. I don't like vermouth. And then you never buy another bottle.
Now we know why.
And now you never taste it.
But of course,
and so it just becomes like this very vicious cycle.
So it's great information.
But of course, vermouth companies only sell you a full bottle of it.
They do not.
Really?
The brand that we are using here.
Always see the giant bottle.
Yeah, so the one that we're using here, Dolan Vermouth de Chambry, my local HEB in Pearland sells this in half bottles.
Oh, okay.
The local HEB in Pearland can sell spirits?
Well, this is the wine product.
It's wine.
It's not a spirit.
Oh, of course. That
So
makes
you'll
sense.
even see now in grocery stores, you'll see like Fireball shots and stuff like that because it's a liqueur, not a full liquor. It's
Yeah, so if you walk all the way
percentage.
past all the craft beer and all of the wine setup, there's always that one where they have like margarita mixes and pina colada mixes and all that. Generally, if you look on like the top shelf, you'll find half bottles of vermouth.
This is a TABC, Texas Alcohol Tobacco a thing. There's a lot of places like if you go into California or
Right, where it's different. If you go to
Louisiana or
Louisiana,
whatever.
they sell. I'm not kidding. I once stopped into a KB Toys in Louisiana, and they had liquor behind the register.
you know, I'm sure somewhere there they have just vending machines that have.
They also have not one, but more than a dozen different chains of drive-through daiquiri shops. Drive-through. Yeah, where you drive up, you order a daiquiri, you pull to the window, you pay your money, they hand you the daiquiri, and you drive away.
There are those in Houston now. Now, that being said, I think for it to be
So they're not using like actual rum. They're using wine-based spirits.
right, a lot of those.
And that are just not good at all.
Good to know. This is good, by the way. This is very tasty. It is very much a gin martini, but
The thing that I like is like when you smell it on the nose, you can instantly tell this is the same like mash and distillate. And then when you taste it, it's just got that little bit of like extra botanical, herby kind of punch to it.
Yeah, the bitters helps the back end of it
Yeah.
balance
Sean,
out significantly.
This is ever so slightly higher ABV. It's not like jumping from like an 80 proof to like a 94. Like this is going from what 82 to 86.8. So like they're still in like the same ABV range. So I think this highlights the difference really well. I really enjoyed that vodka martini. I think for me, this just has that little bit kind of extra going on.
This is classic for me.
Sean, where is Fox and Seeker located?
Fox and Cigar distillery is up near George Bush Airport, right near the Beltway and 59, north side of town.
Okay, so this is a total Houston thing.
Yep.
We can-
100% Texas
We
grains.
can be proud of this as local boys here. I like this.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring him in and like showcase this is like he's not only doing both vodka and gin, but it is grain to glass, it is Houston, it is Texas. It's a very honestly made product by passionate people, and I think it really kind of highlights what we're trying to do with this kind of like competition, if you will.
And in Houston, can I find this in the liquor stores?
Yeah, the three brands you see: the Texas vodka, Meridian gin, London dry gin, the orange, blue, and green. Those are commercially distributed, and the
commemorative is a special one.
That's distillery only. That's a one-off batch. So we're only selling that through our distillery tasting room at $20 a bottle.
So dropping off somebody at the airport, make a swing by, and take a bottle of that home. 'Cause
That's
that's
right.
good.
Are you open at 6 a.m.? Because I have a 6:30 flight on Sunday morning.
No, but you know what is awesome? And of course, if you're going out of Intercontinental, you can't do this. But I have discovered that if you're flying out of Hobby, the Papacitos there in the wing, they're making margaritas at 6 a.m.
Are they?
Bars
Yes,
full.
they
That
are.
is
I love this.
Yeah,
Bars
I generally fly out of Hobby, but to get my direct flight to Philly, I had to go out of Bush.
The last time we were flying, my wife actually called them and asked when they were open and when they were serving margaritas. And she reported back to me with the excellent news that it was 6 a.m.
Yes,
So
if we're open, we're serving.
all right.
Love it.
Let's take a break. We're going to come back. We have more martinis to taste, and we have more beer on the way. In fact, we will celebrate National IPA Day by tasting the Brixton Labs Edge of Mysteries. Sounds very, very dark and mysterious. Yeah, and perfect music for it. We'll be right back. It is Smoking and Toasting. That music just seems like very martini friendly,
Yes,
doesn't
it
it?
does.
That's a pretty cool
New
brew.
Orleans esque right
I
here.
love
What
it.
about that guitar tone?
Yeah, that guy seems to know what he's doing. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. We are so thrilled to have you on board for show number 245 with our special guest, Sean Anger, Chris Morris. And, Chris, you're beginning to rival our two most frequent guests, Chris Hart and Alan Denny,
Oh, really?
for numbers of appearances on the show.
And they had like a 1.5 year head start on me.
Yeah, you're doing pretty good here, buddy.
Coming back fast and furious.
Ian, I got a list of the 11 beers that Molson Coors is discontinuing, and I want to see if any of your personal
Am I
favorites are on
am
the
I gonna
list.
cry?
I don't know if
Am I
you're going to
gonna be
cry or
sad?
not. We'll have to see what's on the list. So basically, this is all based on earnings. The surge of craft breweries has created more options for drinkers than ever before, and so like any industry, brewers are sometimes forced to reevaluate their products and make the difficult decision to pull certain items from the lineup.
Now, my question is, are they going to pull like items from the line that might actually have been decent items?
Well, we'll see. We'll go down the list. We'll see if you like any of these. Number 1, Ham's Special Light.
Yeah, I'm not sad to see that one go. Hams is not good.
Yeah. Number 2 is kind of interesting because it is one of the earlier, quote-unquote, craft beers. It was acquired by Molson Coors at some point. But one of the earlier craft beers and microbreweries, Henry Weinhardt's Private Reserve Northwest-style lager. Now, I haven't had one of these, but
I don't know it.
what I read about it was interesting. Is apparently this is considered to be one of the earliest craft beers in America.
See, and that's what I was just asking about. Like, sometimes they put out stuff that actually is good, and then they discontinue.
And then they discontinue it. You're thinking of Karbach and the sympathy for the lager, aren't you?
No, I'm pretty sure that when AB InBev bought Karbach, they looked at it and went, "Oh, we've got a lager."
Yeah. So
And
sidebar on Karbach. I went to a little happy hour thing that they did for my building at Morton's, the steakhouse
yeah,
downtown.
that's nice.
It was earlier this week. Nice thing. They had nice little appetizers, and they each had one complimentary drink. So I went up to the bar and looked at the choices for beer, because you never know with the cocktails they have for those things, right? So I looked at the choices for beer, and it was Stella Artois, Michelob Ultra, and Hopadillo from Karbach. And I thought, okay, yeah, okay. Well, this is, I have a coupon for this. It's free, so I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. If that was the entirety of the menu and I were sitting down having dinner, there'd have been a long discussion with my server. But in this particular case, I was like, okay, look, it's free. I can't make it. So I got a Hopadillo. You know what? I really enjoyed it. Now, it's been a while since I had a Hopadillo. And I've told you before, like, I used to drink a lot of Hopadillo.
Burned
back
out
in
after
the
a while.
And I got burned out on it. But I will say this Hopadillo was nice and cold, and I really enjoyed it. So I just want to give credit where credit's due, because I've kind of, not really dissed him in the past, but I've said I'm kind of over him, and I enjoyed that
My
beer.
problem with Hopadillo, and I'm IPAs, I'm kind of over them mostly. I mean, I still like IPAs.
I am totally not.
because they're still beer.
I'm totally not.
And I
I'm
like
still,
beer.
I'm
but
still a
that being
IPA
said,
guy.
yeah, I like other styles much better than IPAs. And Hopadillo came out hard and strong. It was one of the fastest, like, you could get a good IPA.
Yeah.
But we all burned out on it because it was everywhere
I
immediately.
remember getting into one of those beer festivals and thinking, I can't wait for them to put this on the
right.
market.
And we all kind of end up with that Hopadillo skid mark on our tongue, so to speak. and you just don't order it forever, right?
Well, for what it's worth, maybe it's been long enough. I thought it was really good.
I mean, the last one I had was at an Astros game.
Okay, there you go.
It was cold. It was good.
Man,
Yeah,
I ended up going.
It was also $14.
Oh yeah,
Right, I ended up going to the St. Arnold has a booth at the
yeah, at the ballpark. Yes,
and I ended up spending. I think I had 6 beers. I spent like $100.
oh yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
Like what?
It's ridiculous.
Have you gotten to do the self-scan line? You just literally walk through, get your beer out of the cooler, put it in front of a can.
I have
yeah.
seen
Oh,
that
no
one.
way.
It's great.
No way.
Yeah. You just literally
It's right
take
next to it, too,
You
so
just
it's real
walk
close.
up and there's like a camera. You just put it down, it calculates your total. You swipe your card, you're out.
Well,
no
Ian,
human contact. Give me beer.
I don't know what you're going to do without this next beer that's going away from Molson Coors. Ice House Edge.
Oh man.
Edge.
Yeah, the reason they call it Edge is apparently it was 8%.
Ice House was already like 6.5, wasn't it?
Yeah, so this was Ice House cranked up a little further.
So they called it Edge, but it kind of did the opposite.
In the opposite end of the spectrum, also going away is Keystone Light Key Lightful.
I have no idea what,
What?
that
I
is.
didn't even know that
Yeah,
existed.
Apparently, you get even lighter than Keystone Light, and it's called
Oh, Lord.
Key Lightful. So,
Oh.
Oh.
They already sell that. It's called Ozarka.
yeah.
It's called Aquafina.
Keystone Ice is always.
You get a
is-
soda stream. And
Keystone Ice is also going away. Remember, like when ice
Everything had
beers.
Bud Ice.
Yeah, but it was Bud
Light
Ice. There was Bud Light
Keystone
Ice. Yeah.
What was the ice anyway? Was it ice filter? I don't even know what the.
I don't even
was.
remember now. But yeah, it had something to do with the filtration, I think.
Like, you know what they need to do? They need to bring back that cola trend that they had where everything was clear.
Oh yeah, like
Jesus.
Crystal
oh
Pepsi.
no.
Crystal Pepsi was just nasty. Let's just admit it.
We need like Crystal Coors or whatever. Crystal.
Also going away, Ian, is Magnum malt liquor.
What?
Yep.
This list is giving me a hangover.
Yeah.
Is going away. Apparently, it's not just a condom anymore. Well, now it is just a condom. Magnum.
Oh man.
Here we go.
But I'm a little, okay,
I'm going to miss this one.
Mickey's Fine Malt Liquor Ice.
Ice.
Yeah,
There's
I
a
didn't
few
know
words
they
in
ma-
there that
I didn't know they
tell
made a
you what to
Mickey's Ice.
expect.
When I saw the little bottle, I thought, "Don't tell me they're discontinuing Mickey's Big
I
Mouth."
was in a band years ago, and the guy that was the band leader, Jeff, dear friend of mine. I miss him all the time. That was where I always went for Super Bowl parties and stuff like that. But I'll be damned if his favorite beer wasn't like the little Mickey's Big Mouth.
Oh yeah,
That's terrible.
it really
Terrible.
is.
You talk about hangovers.
But it was a
it's
college
green
thing.
bottle, and you feel like that bottle the next day.
Yes,
You're just
you
like,
absolutely
ugh.
do. Now, some of these beers probably really needed to go away, and this next one
You
is
know,
an
anything that
example
says
of it.
ice after it, yes.
All right, well, this one too. Miller High Life Light. What? You already have Miller Light.
That's
Why
I
would you
didn't know
need
that was a thing.
Yeah.
Why would you need Miller High Life Light? But apparently that existed, and
That's when you're
exists
not quite
no
living the high
more.
life.
How about Milwaukee's Best Premium?
Speaking of redundancy,
Is that different than Milwaukee's, Best?
I think so.
of course, it's the premium
It's the
version.
premium. Yeah.
Jesus Christ, says it on the can. Pay attention.
It
Noted.
was
I don't have a picture.
it
Sorry.
was established in 1895, just so you know.
Oh.
How about Old English High Gravity 800? Doesn't that just sound like trouble? Old English is bad enough
I feel
all
like
by itself.
Miller Coors should have just sent us a list of all their beers, and then it would be
We could've-
much easier. Yeah,
we could have just.
yeah, it would have been
I
a lot cheaper.
I like that they had to make a high gravity version of it, like for those who like just needed a little more of that.
Yeah, Old English wasn't quite enough. Give me the high gravity. version.
I chose this seat on purpose because I always love looking at the show notes. This can looks like Warped Tour.
Okay, I'm just going to show this can to the camera. Adam, can you?
Oh my gosh!
Oh
can you
man,
that? Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
That is the Old English.
That looks like college.
I took
Yeah.
a picture one time. I was going through the grocery store at one point in time, and I saw a Natty Daddy. Have you guys ever seen this? It was literally. I think I sent Adam a picture of it.
I think I
It
saw
was
Natty
high
Daddy
gravity
walking to the street in Montrose.
It was
I was
high
gonna say, sounds
gravity
like a porn
natural
movie. Yeah.
light, and it was called Natty Daddy on the package. I'll have to dig that picture up.
I'd buy a 69 pack of Natty Daddy.
I'm not familiar with the final one, but it's Steel Reserve 211. Have you ever heard of Steel Reserve?
Still Reserve, yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
But the
If you're
211
looking for a malt
Said-
liquor with fine notes of carpet mold and And lemon, Steel Reserve is what you want.
Well, you may still be able to get that, but the 211 special edition.
I want to know what the 211 is.
Yeah.
Is that an area code?
Well, when I was a kid and I used to watch Adam 12, the cop show on TV, 211 in progress meant an armed robbery.
Oh.
So, yeah, because they would call out, they hear it on the radio, when Adam 12, 211 in progress.
Oh, no.
Walker in Maine. So that's a 211, an armed robbery. All right. Well, thankfully, we're moving on to Martini.
When you really want to steal a car.
What was that, Malort? Tonight's the night you fight your dad? Good slogans. All right. Chris has worked up a dirty martini for us. Tell us about it, my friend.
So this one we went with the Fox and Seeker Texas vodka. It's got a little bit kind of earthier notes as opposed to the other one. The brandy yeast gives it some kind of florality and some tropicalness. So just like the kind of just classic no nonsense vodka.
I would say on the nose this has more florals than I would expect from a.
It's got a very earthy dirtiness to it.
I would say that's a combination of super high quality olive brine and also like the corn really showing through. In the vodka. When you taste. Sean's products neat, you really do get that kind of sense of place, and you smell that corn, that kind of sweet earthiness, pretty much across. I even got it on the London Dry Gin.
So the olive,
the whole mouthfeel of it.
Yeah, the
That's
olive, the brine, the saltiness, sort of sneaks up on you. You don't get it at all on the nose. Like when I make my sort of regular dirty martinis, I can smell the olive. I can get it on the nose. I don't get it on the nose here at all, but it is definitely there. And the mouthfeel of this is a little bit thicker than I was expecting.
Yeah, Chris, you're going to have to send me this recipe. Because
right.
I am not a fan of dirty martinis, and this is perfect.
This is good.
So this is slightly customized to the setting that we're in because I know both of these gentlemen, they don't go heavy on the olive brine, if I remember from.
I do. I go more heavy than I should, to be honest. But Ian, I think, is a little more balanced.
I try to be judicious, but I'll make it dirty. I'm okay.
I mean, we can go dirtier. That's fine.
I always am
trying to be respectful.
I always think of a friend of mine from when I was when I lived in Philadelphia. I would go out to dinner every now and then with him and his wife loved dirty martinis, and she would say to the bartender, "I like a vodka martini, extra dirty. I want it so dirty there's still lipstick on the glass."
Oh boy,
that was her way of getting across.
So Chris, how much olive brine do you put in when they order it that way?
See, the funny part is I'm gonna put in plenty of olive brine, but I'm also gonna put in less vodka so it sits in the glass, fits in the glass. So you're not doing yourself any favors.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, because if you order that from me, you're getting 2 ounces of vodka to an ounce of olive brine, as opposed to you want a dirty martini, you're getting 3 ounces of vodka to half to a quarter ounce of olive brine.
If that's
so
the
you're not
flavor
doing
you're
any
looking
favors.
for.
You're getting a weaker drink.
So if I order an extra dirty,
yep.
What's your normal ratio?
That one I do about 2.5 ounces of spirit to 3/4 olive brine.
Okay.
It gets a little more olivey as it warms up.
And I like
sits in the
that,
glass
actually.
a little bit.
I like
it
the
too.
oliveness.
This is
is
probably
that a
one of
word?
the better martinis I've had, or kangaroos that I've had.
Thank you for correcting yourself.
And another thing that I don't think most people pay enough attention to is the actual selection of olive. It's real easy to get those really terrible giant Spanish queens.
So what do you look for in olives?
You want to know the hack? Just literally go to HEB. They have an olive bar.
Olive bar is where
you
I
can
usually
buy
get 'em.
your olives by weight. That's what we do. These are
Okay.
These are picholines. They're kind of lighter, slightly sweet, a little bit of a citrusy note to the olive itself, and I can just literally pick up a scoop.
And while you're there, you might as well get some of the ones that are blue cheese stuff.
Oh yeah.
Because
I enjoy
my
that,
God,
yeah.
they're so
I
good.
enjoy that. Now, downstairs.
Yeah, because I don't know if you've ever had to stuff olives with blue cheese, but I've done hundreds of them, and
well, one of the last times you were
I'm
here,
trying to be
you
respectful
brought-
of language here.
No, one of the last times you were here,
They were
you
so
brought
good.
olives you'd stuffed with blue cheese yourself,
This
and they
is
were
true.
out of this world.
Yeah, so
good.
good.
They were so good. Now, the little international market store downstairs in my building has a salad bar, and they have a lot of different ingredients. And they have olives that I bought down there before, but I've noticed they're packed in more of an oil. than your usual sort of brine. And so if you put those into the martini, they leave a little oil film on
That
the top of
sounds
the martini.
fantastic.
Yeah. So is that good or
nothing
bad?
wrong
That's
with
what I
that.
wanted to
Yeah,
ask.
I mean, I think that's entirely. I think one of the first shows I did here, I literally put olive oil on a cocktail for you guys when we
That's
did
right, I recall.
Yeah, you had
Zachary
the
D'Or.
infused olive oil where you dripped it on there. It was so good.
Yeah, and if like you use
The
an olive that's
orange
been like
infused.
cured in a little bit of like olive oil, and you get a little bit of like kind of extra richness out of that, like that's just bonus points to me.
Well, I find myself with this excited about getting to the point where I can actually eat the olive.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's looking real good right about now. And that, Ian, let's do some IPA. I don't know how well that'll go with the Dirty Martini, but you know what? I like both of these things.
Only one way to find out.
Yeah, I like both of these things, so I'm willing to try. This is from Brixton Labs, which is another way of describing the Brixton Brewing Company. And they are located in Newport, Kentucky. And this is their IPA called Edge of Mysteries. And I'm really
You're
curious
just
about
bringing
this.
thick, ridiculous beers this time.
You're right. That first one, that Imperial Berliner Weiss, was about as thick
That
of a
was something
mouthfeel as
different.
you can get and still be a beer, I think. So, by the way, Ian, I just want to mention while you're pouring, last week, and thanks to whoever's vacuuming or doing the leaf blowing here for providing an extra ambiance for the show.
Yes.
Last week when we did our Stout blind taste test,
Yes.
one of the things we talked a lot about is that both of us are big fans of Southern Star's Buried Hatchet
Yes.
Stout. But in the taste test, it didn't fare as well against some of the other things. I just wanted you to know when I got that to bring it in, I bought one of those 4-packs.
Right.
So I had several others sitting cold in my little beer fridge. And I had one of them a couple of days ago. And all by itself, away from being tested next to things, I was like, this is one of the greatest beers ever.
As we
It's a really
pointed
good
out
beer.
on the show, though, we also unwittingly put something that you can buy right off the shelf in a 4-pack that's available at all times as a stout
Right.
up against all of those barrel aged,
Really limited edition.
limited series stouts. Like literally,
Oh.
it was up against all of those
I just
things,
ate the
and it
olive.
still stood
Holy
up.
moly.
It's a good one, right?
It just when you're putting it up against all the barrel aged and all those things that are like just
Right.
that much more of this, and then considering you can just go buy a 4-pack of it anytime, that's a great stout.
And I think the 4-pack's like $15. Like it's really
No, it's not. It's $10.
It's $10. It's
Yeah.
just a great, very affordable.
I just want to think
delicious stout.
if you think you have great ambiance, there's a little bit of street noise. Let me tell you about getting my hair cut this morning.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to Tradesman Barber in Montrose. They always do a fantastic job. As you can see on the video feed,
We'll be the judge of that.
I'll tell you
but-
my barber.
They were literally demolishing the building next door, like a crane tearing down this building and shaking the walls. Like you can just hear the rumble. Like people are going outside to like take
to look and take pictures.
It
Yeah.
was awesome.
Ian, tell us about this IPA.
This is Braxton Labs, a place where we ignite innovation, spark conversations, celebrate community, and champion creativity. Somebody's getting paid by the syllable here. Braxton Labs was born to capture the spirit of the garage where Braxton Brewing Company started, located in Newport, Kentucky, so I hope we taste a little oil. Braxton Labs features a brewery and tap room to showcase the talent of our brewing team as it experiments and crafts small batch beers, creating new products and styles on a weekly basis. At Braxton Labs, our beers are brewed and Braxton approved. Alcohol
Nice.
volume is 7% on this.
Okay.
Braxton Labs, brewed in Kentucky.
Interesting.
The double dry hopped with Galaxy. India Pale Ale with Citra hops. Double dry hop Galaxy is the name of it. This is not a very interesting label. It just has a generic
Yeah,
hop.
it's a fairly generic hop. I
And some-
could have maybe drawn that hop on the computer.
Some lovely green lettering and stuff like that. Not a very interesting can. It's also not as big on the nose as I was expecting from
No.
a double dry hopped Galaxy at 7%. But it smells good. I haven't tried it yet.
Try it and tell me what you
It
think.
smells like, if I was going off of the smell on this, I'd give this, like, already I like it.
Yeah, I mean,
Get lemon. A lot of lemon on the nose.
if you ask me what I expect a double dry hop IPA to taste like, it's probably this.
I don't like it.
Really?
It's too hoppy. This is not balanced. This is all bitter.
You can be quiet. Adults are trying to enjoy their beer over here.
Well, remember what
this is kinda
IPAs were before they
this is
got
kinda like
like juicy
sometimes-
fruit.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm riding around in the piney woods here in Houston on my mountain bike, and on rare occasions I will fall off of my bike, and there's a whole layer of pine needles on the ground.
Don't be a hater.
Look, I'm sorry
be a
that
hater.
you can't ride a bike, but this beer is good.
This
Beer is delicious.
it's
It's IPA before they became overly fruity. And,
Yes,
you know,
yes, yeah.
the traditional
yeah,
IPA
but there's
was
nothing
very
on the front end of it. It's just fizz on the front end. There's no malt profile on the front end. It just fizz goes right into bitter.
You're always looking for malt, though, and if it doesn't have malt,
That's
you're
true.
disappointed.
Do you know what one of the prime ingredients of beer is?
Well, that
It's
doesn't.
not fizz.
That doesn't mean it has to be the prominent taste, though. Now, I will say, I have a little bit of a
I
critique
mean, would you
of
be
this.
upset if your oatmeal didn't have a bunch of oats in it?
Okay, boomer.
I have a critique of this.
I'm not trying to be a complainer here.
But it's a little different. I like the flavor of this, but I wish they'd back the carbonation off a little bit. I feel like it's a little too fizzy on my tongue. A great juicy or hazy IPA has a little less carbonation to it in my mind and a little more of a thicker mouthfeel. And I think that would make this better. I do like it, enjoy it. It's refreshing because of the carbonation. But when I go for a double dry hopped IPA, sometimes I'm thinking more about just that intensity of flavor and not as much about carbonation. But
I'm
that's
gonna wash
my
my
thought.
mouth out with this olive.
I think this is, if you like grapefruit juice, you would like this
All
beer.
of this olive,
Yes.
Brian, and you still choose to be salty. Got him.
That's a good place to end this segment. We will take a break. and we will be right back. And guess where we're headed, my friends?
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
That's coming up. Plus more martini tasting and a little El Cuero white stout from Lone Pint Brewery. All on the way on Smoking and Toasting.
Fuck that spoon.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. We're having suddenly the Great Martini Challenge.
It's
has turned
raining
into
olives.
It's raining olives, yes. Welcome back. It is show number 245 for Smoking and Toasting. We are brought to you by mycigarshirts.com. Great shirts for cigar lovers on the web. mycigarshirts.com because...
Cigars.
Yes, thank you very much. Ian, we are now to the segment that people seem to love the most because it's the segment that contains drinking news.
You know what? I was going to play the song, but I think I'm going to give this one up to Chris.
Oh, the ukulele
He's
has
going
arrived.
straight to
my
ukulele
friend.
on this one.
Only took 4 martinis.
There's a podcast all about cigars and brews. Hanging out every week with Ian and Cruze. Spirited discussion and cigar reviews. And the segment known around the world is Drinking News. It's Drinking News. It's what I love. Me and that Florida man and a bottle of rum. Have a couple of rounds. What do we got to lose? Well, a night on the town, it took a turn to the south. When I started drinking martinis and running my mouth, we belly up to the bar. What do we got to lose? That's when the gambler said, I got a bet for you. He gave us 7-1. You know we couldn't lose.
No way to lose.
So me and that Florida man fought a kangaroo. We went a
Just fought a
couple of
kangaroo.
rounds. He beat us black and blue. And Lord, I hope we don't wind up on drinking news. On drinking news. On drinking news. Mama, I hope I don't wind up on drinking news. Cheers, y'all.
I love
My
it.
favorite line is, Mama. I hope I don't wind up on Drinking News. That's my favorite line. Well, Drinking News is here, and it is what it always is, which is highly anticipated and generally disappointing. In our society, we tend to view different kinds of fighting in different ways. We're warned not to bring a knife to a gunfight, for example. But some fights can be fun. As kids, we loved playing Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
That was awesome. We even played dodgeball in school, which is basically fighting with weird inflatable rubber gym balls. Right? It's basically just trying to hit people.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And the bigger kids would always just try to like zing you as hard as they could.
Oh
with
yeah,
the ball.
of course, yeah. And if I mention the phrase "food fight," you probably will think about a fun and crazy time you had back in college, right? It's not necessarily a negative. But a food fight turned serious recently when a Florida couple were arrested on domestic battery charges. Last week, police, when responding to a 1 a.m. domestic altercation, found 45-year-old Stephanie Llanas and her 35-year-old boyfriend, Adolfo Rivera, quote, and I'm quoting police officers here, covered in spaghetti, end quote, following a physical confrontation that ultimately resulted in the pairs being led away in handcuffs. According to the police, Stephanie and Adolfo Rivera were eating dinner early Friday morning in their Clearwater home when a verbal argument turned violent. During the physical confrontation, police alleged, Llanas and Rivera each shoved a plate of spaghetti in the other's face. And we do have photos here, although I don't think they're... I think they cleaned up the spaghetti by the time they took the police photos. When a Clearwater Police Department...
They got to leave that in for the mugshot.
Hold on a second.
Wouldn't that be great?
How bad, like, I can't wait for the rest of the story, because how bad is a food fight at your house when the cops have to get involved?
Right, exactly.
Like, it's different if you're, like, in a mall court.
Right.
Right, or if you're at school or something like that. But when you're at your house having a food fight and the cops get involved...
Right.
I don't know what to say.
If you're having a food fight or a pillow fight and it involves, the authorities, something has gone terribly
and don't
wrong.
be rushed. I'm just creating some ambiance behind you here.
I appreciate that,
So
because
I'm underscoring the story.
the story's a little lame.
And
So,
like me as one of the local fat kids is like, so was it just spaghetti, or like was there meatballs involved, or like
Garlic bread.
was
when
there garlic bread?
Clearwater Police Department cops arrived at the residence, the duo was quote, still covered in spaghetti upon the officers' arrival. Wow. The mutual combat, for which alcohol was reported to be a factor, led to Llanas and Rivera each being arrested for domestic battery. They were booked into county jail and released the following day on their own reconnaissance.
Domestic battery on some spaghetti.
And maybe that's
charges.
why they did the photos without spaghetti, just so people could recognize them. And
Chris do Martini.
Is that what that Guns N' Roses album was about?
oh, the spaghetti
Spaghetti
incident. Both Llanas and Rivera have pleaded not guilty.
I just
to the
wanted to say
misdemeanor count.
the Chinese democracy and raise my eyebrow, but I didn't know if everyone would get that.
A judge has allowed the two to have contact while the case proceeds. So, yeah. And what may not be his finest moment. Llanas initially, the woman, was arrested in October of 2020 for allegedly stabbing Rivera in the arm with a knife during a drunken conversation. Prosecutors subsequently declined to pursue a felony aggravated battery case against her. Her rap sheet includes multiple convictions for narcotics possession, and it's 2 pages long.
I mean, you know how it is,
Of course
man.
it is,
like,
right?
Yeah.
sometimes you have too many free samples at the Olive Garden, and
Yeah.
it just doesn't work out.
Wasn't there some kind of animated movie called "It's Raining Meatballs" or "Cloudy with a Chance
Cloudy
of
with a
Meatballs"?
chance of meatballs. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyway, it's another example of what goes on if you venture into the state of Florida, and that's your drinking news.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Did you see that key change was pretty clever, by the way?
I thought it was, yeah.
News,
Did.
Drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. I will just mention, by the way, I was glad, and I didn't know that Chris was going to do his Drinking News intro song live, but I was glad he was here to do it because it was a fairly lame Drinking News story. And these are not always the easiest things to find. There's plenty of, every week, I'll tell you this, there's plenty of Florida man stories, but it just doesn't work the same to go, a Florida man shot at his kids last week. You know, that isn't necessarily what we're looking for on Drinking News. We're not looking for tragedy here. We're looking for comedy, if I may. So, all right, Ian is busting out the white stout. First of all, Ian, do you understand what it even means to be a white stout? What is a white stout exactly?
I don't really know.
We'll have to contact this, because this is actually, it's maybe the first one I've seen that was actually labeled a white stout.
I've seen them before.
I've seen golden stouts.
Yes, I have seen those, and I've had some of those, and they're delicious, by the way. And this looks rather golden to me. Now, when I think of a white, beer, I think more of
like Celis,
like a white ale, right? Exactly,
ale,
exactly. Yeah,
Belgian wheat.
something that's exactly a little more of a Belgian style.
I found what it says on Google, if y'all want to know.
Oh, white stout.
It says a white stout is created as a result of omitting dark, roasted malts from the grain bill and replacing them with cold, steeped coffee, cacao nibs, and/or vanilla beans.
Adam on the wheels of steel, ladies and gentlemen. Our
So what
producer
you're
on the show.
saying is that malt is not an essential part of beer.
Ian.
Not dark roasty malt. There's still malt in there.
Yeah.
It's just not dark roasty malt.
Okay. Yeah. Whatever.
You heard what Google said.
Talk to the
I'm
hand.
just saying.
Nothing on Wikipedia would ever lie.
Look, I got Google is fine. Wikipedia is fine. But until Wiki Brian or OnStark weigh in, I'm not gonna let.
There's a whole series of like musicians that get interviewed, like Fact or Fiction on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Musicians of famous people in general. That's pretty
Yeah,
fun.
I remember there was a radio station that I worked at where the morning show used to make fun of Wikipedia because it said that the co-host on the for some reason her Wikipedia entry talked about her owning horses, which she did not. Like where did something like that come from? Like who put on her Wikipedia page that she owns a horse? But apparently she did not. Anyway, white stout, Ian. Without the roasted malts, what do you think, my friend?
It's still malty and delicious.
Mm-hmm.
It is malty and delicious. There's
Chris?
also like a fresh, like if you've ever been in the room when they're cracking the malt, they just split it open before they put it in the mash bill. It's very much that kind of. It's very much like when you walk into a brewery. That smell that you get a lot of times is that that fresh cracked malt smell.
So I'm just going to say, other than the one that the brewmaster brought on the show that time, that we didn't care as much for, and he goes, "Yeah, we didn't like that one either." Like these guys have essentially done no wrong. Like every single thing, other than that one that I've tasted from them, and that was the one he said, "Yeah, we didn't like that one
They're all
either." So
good.
clearly, he brought something experimental to see if we were going to
Gentleman
kiss his ass or
relish,
not.
the tornado shark.
Oh, the
all
tornado
of those are
shark!
so good.
It's so good, and I'm going to tell you, I still, having tried so many IPAs since I declared that the Yellow Rose was my favorite. I keep, anytime I come back to it, I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like this is why I loved it so much. It's
still
so
very
good and
roasty.
so balanced. This is really quite good, and you're right, Ian. It is malty.
It is very roasty malty, but it's just not dark roasted.
Mm-hmm.
Have you
Yeah,
tried
they-
this yet?
No.
I will help you with that.
The only thing that I would be critical of this particular beer about is that it's a limited release. They should put
Right.
this out all the time. It's good.
It's an
Yeah, it is very-
8.2% alcohol by volume.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a picture of some kind of woman with a headdress.
Right. It looks like she's riding a manta ray
And
or
she's
something.
a very aggressive manta ray.
Yeah. Right. It was very spiky, aggressive manta ray with an attitude.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
this is like the bitterness you typically associate with hops is replaced with dark chocolate or coffee
Right.
bitterness.
Absolutely, yes.
And
it's a different bitters. Yeah.
It's great. It's phenomenal.
It does have a coffee, especially retrohale to it.
I think it would just be better as a stout, in all honesty. Like
You're not digging on this?
Rather than a white stout?
It's good, but like, I'm not in love with it.
So what would you want to see more of from this brew?
Malt.
Oh. What about some fizz?
No,
we
no,
had some-
no more
No.
fizz. We don't
No.
need any
This
more
is
fizz.
actually fizzy enough.
I
I think it's about perfect fizz-wise.
I think I like this. This is very drinkable to me. I like this.
I mean, I like it. I'm not like I'm not
comes
gonna
across-
rush out to buy this, but I like it. I'll drink it. I'll say it's a good beer. Like it doesn't excite me.
So
is what
it
I'm
comes
saying.
across though with a coffee profile that you get on a lot of more stout beers, but it's lighter drinking. I think,
Lighter, yeah,
overall.
for sure. Yeah, it
a
doesn't.
lot
It doesn't
lighter.
necessarily go heavy on the coffee bitter.
Now it's not lighter alcohol. I mean, at 8.2%. I mean, it's pretty brutal, but
That,
Ian, you had this when you were out there playing bass in your country band. Is there a difference to how it was out of the tap versus what it's like in the bottle?
I remember being less fizzy out of the tap.
Interesting. Yeah.
Less of the fizz, a little smoother, and I like that personally. I like less carbonation, especially on bigger beers overall. So also mine had a chance because I was also playing and everything else. Mine had a chance to warm up, and it just gets more coffee when it warms up. It's really good.
I like it. I like it. All right. So what is next in Martini Land?
We're going to the London Dry Dirty Martini.
Okay. So London Dry Gin, Dirty Martini. We did a vodka Dirty Martini glass.
We should have had this one sponsored by Reverend Horton Heat with his Martini Time song.
Oh, that's such a great song. Sometimes. Okay. So.
Martini Time, you know that one?
So while he's shaking this up, I'll tell you that at my house, my wife and I do Martini Mondays. When she gets home from work on Mondays, that's Martini Day. And usually when I'm in the kitchen stirring up the martinis, that's what I put on. Is Reverend Horton Heat Martini Time.
It's Martini
It's
Time.
great fun. We should get the Rev on the show. I bet he'd come on and play it live. He's pretty cool like that.
Man,
you know?
he's great live. If you ever
Oh,
seen his
man,
show,
what a great
Man,
show,
it's
yeah.
good.
You want to do some good, fun rockabilly stuff? That's a great show to do. All right. So we're doing London Dry Gin. And what did you put in this particular concoction?
So more or less the same as the vodka version, just a little bit more olive brine. Kind of we talked about earlier. Gin has that extra botanical kick, a little bit more kind of going on. So anything you're adding to support, I tend to put a little bit more just to make sure that it punches through. So every martini that we've done today has been 3 ounces of spirit. All the vodkas have been 1/4 ounce of your modifier. This has been a 1/2 ounce.
it's tough after that IPA.
Yeah, but you know what? It's really, really good.
Yeah,
Like,
it's very good.
This is
The nose
this
is
is an
phenomenal.
incredibly balanced cocktail.
This brings a little bit of a tear to my eye.
I still remember back when the pandemic first hit and Ian and I were doing the show on Skype from each other's houses. I remember like it'd be halfway through the show, I'd have no idea he was doing it, and he'd just start shaking up martinis from his house.
Actually, so the best one was when I was in Tucson, and I did
Yeah.
the show from the cigar shop in Tucson.
Yes.
And I was
you were
like,
out
as a
in the
matter
front.
of fact, we're going to try a martini because I always keep my martini kit, of course. That was pretty funny.
Where were you when you did the show where you focused on the big bug?
Oh, that was in St. Petersburg?
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, he did a show in his buddy's backyard that he was staying with, and it was great. He was all surrounded by trees and looked very
I was out in the
Florida.
backyard by the pool. It was real pretty.
Oh, man.
And then at one point, like, he just starts focusing his camera in on this enormous
It was this
bug.
crazy looking bug on a leaf.
Which just goes to show you never know what kind of educational stuff you're going to get here.
Well, you never
on
know what
Smoking
we're going
and
to talk
Toasting.
about because, frankly,
Yeah.
we never know what we're going to
Well,
talk
I
about.
was going to say we make plans and then we abandon them completely as the show goes on.
No plan survives contact with the enemy.
I love this.
Yeah,
this
this
is
is
just
phenomenal.
absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, and I think one thing we've more or less proven across 4 martinis now, 5 martinis now, for
That
being
Soylent
really honest,
Martini is still a martini.
that like, as long as you're using quality stuff throughout,
Right. It doesn't
it's
really
just
matter.
it's just
Yeah.
all 5 that we've had today have been fantastic because they all have very, very good base spirits to them. We're using freshly open vermouth. We're using very high quality olive brine. Like it's just
And I'll
it's
just
just
mention,
multiple sides of like the
You
same
talk about
coin.
vermouth. Like, look how little is gone from that. I mean, the vermouth has been really just as a little flavor splash.
Yeah,
hasn't it?
I mean, across 5 martinis, we've used 2 ounces.
Right. Exactly. So, don't overdo your vermouth, people. I've done that before in martinis. It doesn't.
It
end
makes
up
it
well.
bitter, baby.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
We've still got one segment to go, right?
We have one more segment.
So we're gonna ramp it up. What are we gonna do in the last? We are gonna go back because we kind of miscalculated.
Shots?
We were like, oh, let's do 5, and then we'll try and squeeze this in. No, we have room for one more, so we're gonna go as old school as we can. We are going to do the original 1860s, 70s, 50-50 with a full dash of orange bitters.
Okay,
and we are
interesting.
going for it.
So when you say 50-50, it'll be 50% gin, 50% vermouth?
Oh, boy.
Wow, that should be interesting.
I do not know how this will work. I have not tested this gin in this format.
I recommend the London Dry.
Yeah, no, that's what we're going to do. We are going as old school as we can, back to the origins of the martini.
All right, and we will do that next. It's Smoking and Toast, and thank you for joining us for show number 245, the Great Martini Challenge. I have a feeling this last one will be a bit of a challenge.
I just want to point out that since Adam answered that question, Wiki Brian said, "Hey Adam, WTF? It's Wiki Brian, not Wiki Adam."
Oh man!
Oh, that's perfect.
That is just like that is
DJ
like,
Morris.
Yeah, that is like a Pied Piper sound. Like I would follow that sound wherever it happened and just keep going. You know.
So just to give Wiki Brian some credit, not currently a BJCP or BA style, a blonde or golden ale that exhibits traditional stout flavors such as coffee or chocolate. Many mimic thick and creamy mouthful.
Okay,
talking about that white stout.
So this is interesting because Buffalo Bayou has a beer. I think it's called Wake and Bake, and it is like a blonde ale, but it is so coffee laced that it almost reminds you of a stout. Even the mouth feels more like a blonde, but taste wise, it's very stoutish. Would that fall into this category?
It might be one of those styles that just because it doesn't have a label yet, you're kind of left at it. Like 1836 here in by Buffalo Bayou is a copper ale, and
it's wonderful.
I don't think that exists, but it's brilliant. That's a brilliant beer.
Wonderful. That's one of the better beers made here in our city. I mean, it's just wonderful.
Go-to.
And not only is it a go-to, but it has this chocolate note that makes it great with cigars.
Oh yeah,
great with cigars.
That's a go-to. And then the Eighth Wonder Tex. Have you seen that one?
Oh yeah,
it's just a white can TEX on it. Oh man, that's an absolute go-to.
Oh, Chris, I'm so sorry. I knocked things over. We've had too many martinis, but I don't think we really have.
I don't believe such a thing exists.
Like you started speaking a different language for a moment there. I didn't get all
You
this.
knocked down the empty one, so we're good.
So we're all good. Okay.
All I heard was we've had mumble. I don't know what's happening.
Let me ask you this. On your night off, do you have a tendency to be a homebody, or do you want to go out?
It depends a lot on the context. Like the weekends, like if I have like a little bit of work to do at home, I tend to be a homebody. But I also live in the suburbs. I live in Pearland. Like it's 30 minutes for me to get to town. So like I have tonight off. I took the day off of work to drink martinis.
And thank you for that.
I make this sacrifice,
and we appreciate your sacrifice, sir.
For the fine people around the world. So tonight, like we're actually going out. Like I have a reservation at Tiny Champions over in Edo, and I'll probably go see my friends at Night Shift. They just opened, doing fantastic things. Love those guys. Love what they're doing. So Night Shift, they're like literally right on like the green line, and it is Justin Ware, who was the GM of Johnny's Gold Brick.
Is that on navigation over there? Or,
yeah, down in that kind of area. So Justin Ware, who was the bar manager at Johnny's Gold Brick for years and years and years, absolutely fantastic. Me and him competed for years. He was the 2019 Heaven Hill Bartender of the Year for the nation.
Wow. That's like not a big award.
And Patrick Abalos, who's a multi-time like national finalist for Diageo World Class. They kind of like, and that's where they kind of like met, started putting theirs together. They have an all-star cast of bartenders down there. Great chef, great food. Just really like, it's the first like bar in Edo that like I can enthusiastically recommend doing really great things.
Love that.
So excited to see my friends doing really cool stuff.
And I love the whole Edo experience. It's really starting to come on.
Yeah, like when I told him, like, I'm just really glad I have a place that I can send people to drinks after I send them to like either Nancy's Hustle or Tiny Champions for dinner.
Yeah.
'Cause, like
Okay,
those restaurants
cool.
are so great, and like that neighborhood's so up and coming. But it's like that's like my two stalwarts, and I'm like, well, then what do you do when you're on navigation?
Right.
And,
Yeah,
like,
once you
and
eat,
like that
right.
place is really coming. Like that whole neighborhood's coming out. 'Cause like White Rhino open and Fitzcarraldo. Like it's really kind of developing and coming up. But I know those guys are doing really cool stuff. They have a beautiful space, including what's soon to open. I think they have like a actual rooftop patio that overlooks.
Oh,
Have
nice.
you been to
Ooh.
Cidercade?
I have not been yet. I've heard really good things.
Oh man,
Is it the truth?
oh man.
Yeah.
Cidercade is a big ass arcade,
Yeah.
and it's the what's the cider brand? I just call it Cidercade actually. Now I think about it. They have a bunch of ciders you can get locally.
What,
stuff
like
I mean,
Varsity
if you're telling me
ciders,
this
or-
is in Edo, this is probably happening tonight.
Oh yeah, no,
Okay.
Cidercade. Go by there. It's $10 to get in the door, and all the games are open.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
Wow.
And,
What?
And don't misunderstand this, because it's not like a bunch of games and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Like I wanted around play. Of course, I had to play Gauntlet and,
Yeah.
and Age of.
Okay, yeah,
stuff
like,
that. I mean, like it's all the old arcade games, all the new arcade games, and it's all wide open.
All right, well, if for whatever reason
Cidercade.
my wife is listening, you know where we're going to wind up tonight.
I'm on the way. I'll
Yeah.
see. I'll meet you there.
There you go.
Yeah, and it's
I'll kick your ass in a little Star
absolutely-
Wars
and it's a
X-wing
huge
fight.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. All right.
It's a huge room. There's something
Yeah,
like we
NBA
didn't have
Jam,
to
let's
wait
go.
on anything. Like we just walked
Yeah.
up to the only thing you'll have to wait on when we were there is Guitar Hero, but
I'm fine
Yes.
with that.
Yeah. All right. I can play that at home.
yeah, or whatever, Rock Band or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Well, the reason that I asked is because there's an interesting article that came out on mandatory.com about the drinks that bartenders are most likely to order on their night off
All right.
when they go out.
Yeah.
So I want to read you this list and see what you think about it, if this is accurate or if it reflects you, first of all.
Sure.
And then secondly, do you think this is what other bartenders do?
Yeah, let's go.
And so the first one I think might be a challenge, but maybe I'm wrong. Daiquiri.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yes, really.
Yeah, one of the absolute classic cocktails. It is the test of a bartender. It's something you can't hide behind. It's rum, lime, sugar. That's it. And if you can't make those three taste good, I don't want to taste anything else that you do.
So that is totally something
I
you
love
would
this.
order
I
on a night
absolutely
out.
love
Never know.
I have.
This is great.
I will absolutely walk. Like if I'm having one drink for the night, I routinely just like
Well,
do a
I-
classic daiquiri.
See, I
Yes.
love a good daiquiri, but that's totally surprising because I think of myself as like a
Daiquiri,
bar
you mean like
novice
the ones that
when
you
I
get on
order
the
that.
street at New Orleans
Yeah, not so much.
with the tape on the straw, right?
with the
Yeah,
giant like giant.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
But like
no,
the-
that's absolutely one of them.
all right. So how about gin and tonic?
Sure, if you're feeling lazy.
Gin and tonic-
I don't know that a ton of bartenders like go out and drink G&Ts, but
So here's what the article says. It says the key's in the little details, and it's a joy to see how different bars and bartenders execute this. If you're going to spend money on a top quality spirit, the rest of the drink should follow suit. And then it goes on to say about different places that the author of the article has
Yeah,
had.
I
He's
mean,
really liked it.
yeah, like the details, like somewhat. If you get into like the world of Spanish gin and tonics, the one that are served in like big goblets, like yeah, sure. Like there's a whole lot of room for experimentation. We have one on our menu that's absolutely fantastic. I love it. We call it the BAG&T. People are like, what does that mean? I'm like,
It's
badass gin and tonic.
Yes.
It just literally,
And so
it says it on the menu.
So what makes it badass?
It's in a really beautiful etched goblet. We use Citadel gin that we infuse with butterfly pea flower. Everything we put in the drink is a botanical inside Citadel itself. So everything calls back to the base spirit. We put a glow stick in it because the drink's fucking purple, and that's awesome. And we shouldn't really take drinks too seriously sometimes. And we like a little bit of violet liqueur. Like, yeah, it's awesome. It's Instagrammable. It drinks easily. I don't order. I don't know a
shouldn't
bunch
take
of people that like go out and order gin and tonics. So I don't know
Yeah.
how truthful that is as far as like experimentation. If I'm getting it, I just want like Tanqueray and like gun tonic. That's all I want.
I make that at the house pretty often.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gin
so I
and
don't
tonic.
know that it's something like a lot of bartenders order when they're out, but yeah, sure. Like I see the appeal of the drink.
So how about the Manhattan?
No bartender orders that.
So this is what the article says. It says, I like to order Manhattan on the rocks. Vermouth isn't appreciated
Yeah, that person's
as
an
much
idiot.
as it used to be.
I
This
hate
is-
everything about them.
This is Patrick Morgan, bartender at the Parlor in Hollywood, California.
Never heard of it. Fuck him.
In Hollywood, California.
Don't order your Manhattan on the rocks. Drink it up. It's a beautiful drink.
and-
I love
and
Manhattans.
Hollywood.
I never order Manhattans. And maybe I will now.
How
but-
about,
Hollywood.
how about,
yeah, objectively false.
how
Everything about that.
How about the Negroni?
Favorite cocktail of all
Oh,
time.
Negronis
Really?
are amazing.
So it says bartenders everywhere love ordering a Negroni cocktail. Nearly every bar in the world has Campari, gin, and sweet vermouth.
Facts.
It's an easy cocktail to make, and it's very
It is.
forgiving. So even a new bartender should be able to make a tasty
I had
one. Would
Martini
you agree
over
with
at Poison Girl make me one of those. I hadn't tried one before, and it was quite good.
Yeah, no, Negroni is one of my favorite cocktails of all time. Every ingredient matters, whether if you switch the gin, the vermouth, or the
Yep,
bitter, you get a
100%.
beautiful, different experience. It's three things in equal parts. You cannot fuck it up.
All right, I love it. How about the old fashioned?
Yeah, sure.
It says if I were to order a classic cocktail, it would be the old fashioned. I'm a strong admirer of good whiskeys and bourbons. Then you add a little sweetness, yada yada. That's from Richie Smith, the bartender and bar manager at the local in San Diego. I feel you're a little less enthusiastic about this one.
I love old fashions. I think just slightly burned out on them.
Oh, so maybe I
Just
understand
like
this.
just been drinking them for
You getting
15
that-
years.
like
that
I was
old-fashioned
about
skid mark?
Hopadillo.
Yeah, and like if I see like an interesting old fashioned variation on someone's menu, that's probably what I'm going to order. So yeah, there's a little bit of truth to that, but I've never like
But the old
That-
fashioned isn't something you can take one direction or the other. Like it
It sort of
tips
is
the
what it
balances
is, right?
Yeah.
one way pretty quickly.
and that's another one of those like it follows the same like that's the two kind of litmus tests, if you will, are the daiquiri and the old fashioned.
Okay.
If you can't make those two cocktails correctly, you suck as a bartender.
Noted.
Good to know.
So-
how about the paper plane?
Ooh.
I don't even know what that is.
Not quite a classic cocktail, but more of a modern classic.
Yeah, it's a modern classic. It's a Sam Ross cocktail from Milk and Honey in New York City. So equal parts bourbon, lemon, Aperol, and Amaro Nonino. Great cocktail. Lesser known, but yeah, I know plenty of bartenders that drink paper planes.
I
Yeah,
was
think it's a great
a little
drink.
I was a little surprised to see it on the list actually because it wasn't as well known as some of the others.
Yeah, but I think it's a little more kind of well known in bartending circles.
Ah, okay. that
So
makes
there
sense.
there
Yeah.
are certain drinks that kind of function as like a kind of secret handshake of like
See, this is
of
this
like
is the
I-
inside
of, like,
information.
I'm
yeah.
familiar with cocktails and I'm like I want to see if you know what I'm talking about, and then like you can gain my trust.
So
I think
the
the
next-
paper plane is very much one
So
of
the
those.
next time I go to Lola's, that's what I ask for.
There you absolutely yeah.
about-
See how far that gets you.
Yeah. Give him a wink
Yeah,
while you
so-
order.
Yeah.
Lola's is one of the more
Yeah.
beautiful dives in Houston, but
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
very divey.
Great cocktail invented by a great bartender. I fully approve.
So how about the Sazerac?
I drink a lot of them when I'm in New Orleans. Most of them aren't very good, but
Oh,
yeah, sure.
is that because you're in New Orleans, or is it because you're not a fan of the cocktail?
No, I love the cocktail. It's just because I'm in New Orleans and they make a lot of terrible ones.
If it's done correctly, Casey Lyons, the lead bartender at Pacific Hideaway in Huntington Beach, California, says
I don't know what that has to do with Sazeracs. I
it's
don't know
capturing
shit about
passion in a glass, just a moment of perfection.
that. Yeah, sure.
Oh,
So-
I'm detecting a little sarcasm here.
Sounds like marketing wankery.
The zen
but-
of the
Yeah,
Sazerac.
well.
and like I love Sazeracs.
How about the Vocar?
The Vieux Carré.
Vieux Carré? Okay, thank you for
I drink a lot
correcting
of
me.
them when I'm in New Orleans at the Hotel Montleone where they're invented.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know no.
So-
Absolutely okay, let me be fair. Absolutely fantastic cocktail. It's not something like I hear a lot of bartenders ordering.
So, pronounce it for me again.
Vieux Carré.
Vieux Carré.
I'm just going to bring this
means
list the
old-
next time I go to your bar.
Yeah, so it
and
basically,
order them all, right? One
Yeah.
after the other.
I can make everything but the paper plane, and I can do a version of it.
Spell it
That's fine.
phonetically,
So-
afterwards too.
Yeah,
Right.
so the Vieux Carré it technically means old box, so it refers to basically the French Quarter in New Orleans.
No wonder I couldn't
Yeah,
pronounce it.
so it was literally invented at the Carousel Bar in the Hotel Montleone,
Well, that's fascinating.
which is where I've drank the most Vieux Carrés of
Because
anywhere in my life.
I have been to that bar many times, but I've never ordered that particular cocktail.
And they make a fine version of it. It's
love
not.
it.
It's
I
not.
love it.
There are very, very few drinks that, if you order them where they were invented, will be anywhere approaching respectability.
What is the best drink you make right now?
All of them.
But is there a favorite? Like, if you had to
No.
pick one? No?
No,
Really?
Absolutely not.
All right. Spoken like a true bartender.
No, I mean, we have 18. Well, as of Tuesday, we have 17 original cocktails on our menu. 16 of them are mine. I make all 17 of them very well.
That's
This man
great.
came out with a cocktail for me one time because I do walk into his bar and do that thing that bartenders hate where I'm
Yeah.
like, make me something.
Yeah.
I don't hate that at all. Like I hate it.
You don't hate it if it's him,
I hate
right?
it if you're lying to me.
Right.
If you're like, just make me something, and then I make you something, and you're like, I don't like mezcal. You're like, well, then tell me
You
that.
should have said that. Yeah.
So, but he came out with a drink that was in a cup that was like a bowl of pho,
yeah.
and it tasted a bit like a bowl of pho.
Really?
With
As a
alcohol. It was
cocktail?
fantastic.
That is our best-selling cocktail.
savory-
What is it called?
It's called the Pho Loma.
It's
The
a
pho loma. I
savory,
love it.
amazing cocktail. That
Yeah,
I-
it- so
Obviously,
it was.
like cousin to a Paloma?
It is. So reposado tequila, lime juice. We make a pho spice syrup that we
love
put
it.
fish sauce and beef stock in the syrup.
my
So it has that
That's
like
so good.
that unctuous umami flavor to it. We
You're
put
making me crave a particular
grapefruit
kind of cuisine
soda over
right
it.
now.
We're currently working on like even improving that cocktail further by creating a basil noodle, so we can actually have an edible noodle in your pho cocktail.
Oh my goodness.
We're probably about a week and a half or 2 weeks from
That
like,
is a little
getting that
like
one right.
eating the olive
It's
in the
so
dirty
decadent
martini,
too.
but
Like
not
you're
exactly.
drinking it, and you know you're drinking something that is just out of this world. It's so
I
good.
love it. I
Yeah,
love
no,
it.
I absolutely love that cocktail.
Do we
It's-
do we have a final thing
We
we're
do.
tasting here? I think we should get to that, don't you?
No, we already started up. We're ready.
All right, let's do it. I am the first one poured, which is exciting.
Yeah, so this one, like we talked about, we are going as old school as you can. We're
So
going.
this is the
we are
old school
We are
mix,
going
right?
back 150 plus years. This is the 50-50, ounce and a half Fox and Seeker London Dry, ounce and a half Dolan Dry Vermouth,
So
and a
first,
full dash of orange bitters.
so first question is, why did it change over the years?
I mean, it's kind of hard to say. Let me hit a little bit of lemon oil on these guys, because that's the traditional. This cocktail predates olives being imported into the U.S. So
Well, that's an old cocktail then.
it is. It's a very, very old cocktail. I mean, it's just kind of hard to say. Like a lot of the martini history is shrouded in
Secrecy.
mystery.
Well, I would say
ancient
that
It-
little
cults. Ancient martini cults.
Yeah. So
these are cults I want to belong to.
I
I'm
gotta
trying to make it all Lovecraft like.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So I think probably the best thing to do while we sip these, because like I see again, this is untested, this is completely different, but I do want to give just a second just to Sean, who literally distilled these spirits that we've been drinking
Sean,
all day.
for
Just-
serious, these are
just
like
to talk
awesome.
about Fox and Seeker and like the cool stuff
Yeah.
that they're doing, because we connected through happenstance. I needed somebody to do vodka, or somebody that like made a vodka or cared about vodka, which it's been a year and a half we've been trying to find them. It's really hard
Right.
to do.
Oh.
And we just got connected through people. We met up for coffee, and we're just like, oh, okay, like you're a nerd, I'm a nerd. We can get nerdy about spirits. Let's do
I
this.
love
So
it.
I do want to give him a second, just like kind of shine on Fox and
Yeah,
Seeker and what
please
they're
do.
doing while we enjoy these martinis.
Yeah, well, I mean, it really everything Chris is highlighting, you guys highlight, just like the intricacies of everything you deal with, whether it's cigars, beer, coffee, food, whatever. You can go to that level of depth with anything, and spirits is just where we landed. So we really enjoyed this opportunity to show this in a martini that someone who knows how to build martinis can really highlight the base.
How
spirit,
long
'cause-
have you guys been in operation now?
Oh, not long. October of 2020 was our first batch. So
You are
10 months.
kidding me.
Yeah.
From the taste of these spirits,
and if
I would not have guessed that.
And if I don't mention it, I don't know that he will. But there's whiskey in a barrel, yeah.
Yeah, we got
Oh.
2 full
Yeah.
barrels. One of them is wheated, one of them is triticale'd, which nobody's heard of triticale.
Wait, hold on. I'm going to out geek all of you.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Okay. Star Trek, Trouble with the Tribbles. Who put the tribbles in the Quadro Triticale? Is it similar?
So I don't know the reference. I'm not
You
even
win-
going to
you win this
pretend to
round.
follow this down.
I wouldn't have gone there if it hadn't been the very last segment of the
So
show, because
geeky.
that would have like I know people are turning the show off like around the world in droves. No, but Triticale, seriously, what is Triticale?
So triticale is a genetic hybrid of
Grain.
cross-pollination of wheat and rye.
Right, it's a grain.
Yeah,
right.
it's its own grain. It's its own
Because that's
species.
what tribbles eat. I'm sorry. Please
There we go.
continue.
I am boggled by this right
I know,
now.
right?
You should be.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen Trouble with Tribbles, but I think I was 12.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
every bourbon has an accent grain. You know,
Right.
the corn is the base ingredient. 51% minimum in any mash bill, and then you usually have an accent grain, whether it's wheat or rye. Those are the most popular, I would
Right.
say, in the U.S. A triticale is a genetic hybrid of those two,
Okay.
and it's a completely unique flavor profile.
And so this is what you're using to bring about the flavor profile of your whiskey.
Of our first barrel, yes.
Ah,
yeah, our
very
second barrel is wheated, our third barrel will be rye, and our fourth barrel, we don't know what we're doing yet.
Are you going to do a
we'll figure it
Malort
out.
barrel? That would be amazing.
No,
Yeah, so
don't
like-
do
So
a
actually,
Malort
y'all
barrel.
tell me. What do you want in the fourth
I was
barrel?
gonna
We'll
do
do
that.
there you
it
go.
right
Do
here.
not do a Malort barrel. Trust me on this. It'll be your worst selling thing ever.
So that was the one of the things that I really appreciate when we started talking is because, as you guys know, like so many distilleries that want to make bourbon kind of forget to factor aging into the whole business plan.
Yeah,
And-
right,
And
exactly.
then they just wind up buying some, neutral
Right.
grain spirit out of, Iowa or
and
Kansas,
putting
like
something on the
wherever.
shelves. Yeah, exactly.
Just adding some water, doing a cursory redistillation. But when we met up and he was telling me, like, literally distilling a vodka, distilling a gin, and recognizing the value in, like, doing grain to glass, even when you're doing the things that, like, maybe mightn't have been what you intended to do when you start out, because you started out, wanting to do bourbon, but understanding that, like, there are other options that you can do, and taking the time to do those the right way and really
right.
like obsess about those, I think is really fantastic.
The question is this: is bourbon your ultimate goal?
So, bourbon is first of all, the United States is a brown water country.
Yeah.
And Texas is a brown water state.
Yeah, I'd
so
agree with
there's a lot of business case to going down the aged category.
Well,
and
the reason I
personally,
ask, your products are coming out so clean, and so they don't taste like. There's a lot of distilleries that have started up where the mash bill that you start off with for vodka, and a lot of that kind of starts off the same as what you're doing when you're going to make brown water, as you call it. So a lot of companies started up, and as I'm getting started, they just randomly put out a vodka,
Yeah.
and they randomly put out a gin because it's easy and it's faster, and you can have it turn around real fast. But yours come out crafted like this doesn't taste like a rush. Let's just get it out and see if we can get something on the shelf thing. These taste a little more crafted. So I've been laboring under the illusion that this is what you're planning on doing. And now I was going to ask you actually about, like, are you planning on doing a bourbon? So it's interesting that it came up this way.
well, if you ask the folks on Wall Street, what we're doing doesn't make any sense whatsoever. To go grain to glass, especially with vodka and
Tough.
gin, it's not easy. It's laborious. There's only a few distilleries in Texas that do it.
Yep.
Still Austin's one of them. Real does a grain to glass spirit, but there's not many. You have to search to find them. So knowing that our passion lies in fermentation, fermentation is where you create the flavors, and distillation is where you harvest them.
I just want to
So
interject and say, as apprehensive as Cruze was for the 50-50, he was the first one to finish this version
It was
of the Martini.
delicious. No, let me just say that was great. I loved the
Yeah.
flavor of that.
Yeah.
And yes, I did finish mine first.
Yeah, he was the first one. I
Fantastic.
did not mean to cut you off. I just had
Oh,
to,
you're
I,
fine.
I just
Yeah,
had to
no.
establish that for
No.
the audio only version.
We're done here. So these spirits are terrific, and we're super excited to taste whatever your expression is that you wind up with on the whiskey side.
Oh, appreciate it. Yeah, we're looking forward to bringing it to market. So.
How are you finding the reception to what you're doing at the liquor stores and the retail outlets?
Surprisingly, the gin is well received, kind of universally. The vodka has become very divisive. And
Really?
Yeah, it was
In what way?
counterintuitive because it has flavor.
I
And
see. Yeah.
that's really where it kind of surprised us. We weren't planning on it.
As someone who loves flavor and someone who loves vodka, this is like the perfect thing. And Ian is setting up cups. What are you thinking there, buddy?
I just want to try whichever vodka by itself. Like,
Which
which one should I try just by itself?
The Discovery
you
Series
should, you
or
should
the-
try both of them.
Yeah, I
and
think side
compare
by
them.
side is the most educational thing
All
we
right.
can do.
Looks like you have 5 more cups over there.
I will pass
at a
that
minimum.
over. All right. So side by side, just a little taste to see
Yeah, because
how these compare to each other.
So I had not tasted this vodka. Like when we met up to kind of
love that.
pregame a little bit, he had told me, he goes, we did a vodka, and the only difference is the yeast used in fermentation. Everything
Right.
else is exactly the same. And he told me it is one.
I'm-
He goes, it is polar opposites He goes, "I'll bring it to the show."
I am very
So,
much short
so I-
pouring these.
Oh,
Yes. And I thank you for that. That's that one to Adam. All right, so the first one you poured is the
commemorative?
Yeah,
All right,
it's
so
a-
I'm going to wait because I want to taste the regular
regular
one
first?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, and both of these use the same exact grain bill: 80% corn, 20% wheat, all from Denton County,
And I
Texas.
think another thing you can talk about that we talked about, because when we met up, I was like, okay, like what processes are you using on your gin? Are you doing like
Right.
maceration? Are you doing vapor basket? Are you doing compounding? He's like, yes.
All of
He's
it.
doing
So,
all
I,
of
so
it.
I think you were
all of
telling
the
me
above,
like,
yeah.
you know,
All right.
there's like 2 or 3 different expressions of juniper in like your
Right.
gins.
Yeah, and that's true. That if you macerate or steep
Yeah.
juniper in, let's say, 100 proof vodka overnight, you get a certain flavor profile.
So-
if you steep it in 80
Right.
proof, it's a completely different flavor profile.
And like
Interesting,
this was fascinating to me because no one fucking does this. You either do like maceration or you do vapor basket.
all of the flavors, all the botanicals, everything you put in this is identical to these except for that yeast. Is that correct?
Correct. And in those two, there's 0 botanicals. That's 100% grain.
I'm sorry. But
So 100%
Grain,
grain.
water, and
I was
yeast.
thinking
That's
gin.
all it is.
Your biases are showing.
Yes.
So
Well,
I
this
don't know
is
which one
delicious.
you're drinking, but
I'm having the Texas vodka
the
first.
Texas vodka, you'll get orange, vanilla, especially on the nose. If you're a tequila drinker, you typically get Blanco tequila on the nose.
Yes, yes.
Um, and
that is what that is.
It's
Yeah, there's
absolutely true,
there's
yep.
a subtle earthiness. That, yeah.
Yep.
There's a sweetness to this that it's a very natural like sweetness to it.
But for those people who say that vodka is flavorless, you should try this vodka.
Yeah.
That's definitely not flavorless.
Yeah, and we control the fermentation
yeah.
so that we don't have to charcoal filter, which is where charcoal filtration what strips all the flavor out of vodka.
Right.
So
What makes it a completely
you have to
neutral
ask the
spirit.
question: what causes charcoal filtration? Why do you need to do it? It's either you're creating a commodity product, or the flavor you start with isn't something you want to bottle. So we ferment it in a way so that we can bottle it and serve it. So this vodka has turned out to be very divisive. Some bars just say we don't want it. We want something neutral, and we're not the product for that bar for
Right.
sure.
They're so different from each other, which is
They
bizarre.
are. I was just A-Bing them and just thinking,
This is
wow.
almost like the difference, and I'm going to put this in beer terms. This is almost like the difference between a wheat beer and a lager. It's very different. Like there's a whole different profile going on, and the roundness of the mouthfeel and everything else. Your first Texas vodka has a very straightforward, with little sweetness and some of those flavors you're mentioning. And those flavors, not some of them, but the commemorative with the different yeast is very different. It's got a wider palate to it. It's a rounder kind of thing, and it's got a little bit of a cool kind of funk to it that I enjoy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And like the thing that I really enjoyed going through here is that Texas vodka is the base for both of these gins. The only thing that changes is just adding
The
botanicals.
botanicals, yeah, right.
Yep.
So I thought that this was the best way to neutrally show off gin versus vodka in a variety of settings, and I think we had a smorgasbord of really good drinks, and I think it just
I
kind
love
of
smorgasbords.
I'm about to innovate
Uh-oh.
the entire industry and do a blended vodka.
Mind
All
blowing.
right, so I have to do it because we're getting towards like kind of the end of the segment. So like, let's just go.
I never
around.
have.
Let's
All
go.
right, so we're gonna all go crazy here?
Are we doing it?
Blended vodka.
I was just gonna ask Martini questions, but if we're
Go for it. Go
if
for
we're
it.
if we're suicide, I was just gonna ask like kind of where we landed. Like, what was everybody's favorite Martini that we did
Well,
today?
Ian, I'm assuming
Holy
you
cow!
love
Like the
gin.
vanilla comes out like huge.
Are we innovating live on air right now?
Like
are.
right here, right now, the
And you're
vanilla
right.
pops
It is
out
all
like,
cow.
vanilla.
You're right.
like huge, and there's almost like that. Did you say cacao? Like there's almost a cacao nib kind of like.
Oh yeah, like
the
a little
very,
bit of
like,
back end
end of
bitter.
it.
Yeah,
I
sure.
get it. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, wow, that's impressive.
Now I gotta buy a new yeast strain.
Hey, blended vodka is in a completely open
That's a
field
whole
right now.
thing, Ian. You've just invented something.
Yeah,
I love
that's
it.
it.
I love
That's
it.
it.
All right,
Blended
so
vodka.
years
Y'all ready to call?
So
so
where did we wind
years
up?
in the making, we finally did it. Ian, favorite martini. What was it?
The last gin martini.
The 50-50.
The 50-50.
Really?
Yeah. But second favorite would be probably the last vodka martini with the olive.
The Texas dry dirty. Okay.
That was my favorite. That last vodka martini
Okay.
with the olive.
But I love that 50-50. Like when I took a sip.
No, it was great.
That was like, that to me is
I'm going to be honest with you. I
ridiculous,
wasn't
and I love that.
expecting to like that one
Yeah.
as much.
So-
and it
Yeah.
totally rocked me. Like,
Don't
I was,
be scared of your vermouth. Vermouth is good.
Wow.
Like
Vermouth
buy
is
a
your
half
friend.
bottle, keep it in your refrigerator. You will be fine.
Vermouth
Add it
is good.
judiciously.
And drink it on its own too.
So-
Like, drink it on its own. Know what it does because
Yeah.
it's a phenomenal flavor profile.
So you've
We
tasted
had-
all of these on their own multiple times. What was your favorite martinis?
So probably not going to come to a surprise, but the London Dry is my
Okay.
favorite.
Yeah, yep, yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that was probably mine as well.
What,
Which also not
With
a
the
surprise.
orange bitters. The orange
Yeah.
bitters was a great touch.
well, what fun this was. Guys, thank you so much for coming on and demonstrating all of the stuff that you did here. We've learned a couple of things. One of them is buy vermouth and drink it fresh.
Yep.
Yeah, and don't be afraid of it if it's fresh.
Also, kangaroos aren't bad.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Your vermouth is going to go bad. So what does that mean?
Oh, it's
Yeah,
just-
drink it.
You
Right.
should drink more martinis.
yeah, well, absolutely.
And-
but it's just like if
And as
you-
we've established multiple times, this show will influence sales.
Once
Yeah,
you
yeah.
pop,
Please buy vermouth
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
lots of it, and drink lots of martinis.
Once you pop,
preferably
you
with
can't
Fox
stop.
and Seeker.
Absolutely, but it's just like you were talking about with, or just like you might talk about with, like if you have a bottle of red wine and you don't finish it and you put the cork back in it.
Yeah.
You can have some the next day and it's probably going to be all right. But 3 weeks from now, not so much.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and your vermouth is fortified, so you're talking more like 6 to 8 weeks, and you'll be
Right.
fine. But if 6 months later you don't, like you left it on your counter, you didn't put it
Yeah.
in the fridge, you're in for a
Totally-
bad time. Don't
totally
do that.
get
Yep.
All right. Well, guys, thank you so much for being on the show today. I don't
Absolutely.
know
Yeah,
if we
thanks for having me.
resolved anything, but we sure had fun getting to the bottom of everything we could get to the
To the
bottom
bottom of the
Yeah.
glass, at
The
least.
bottom of the glass. That's right.
And I got the bottom of every glass.
Yeah, and it was fantastic, and Fox and Seeker.
I just want the
wow,
record to
this is
show
good
it was three.
stuff.
It was 3-1 London Dry to vodka. I just want to say.
That's fine. That's fine.
So we did get to the
Go
bottom of
gin.
something.
I'm still a vodka guy. Sorry.
And that's fine.
Yeah,
Well,
my own.
blended vodka.
I-
going
but
forward,
I
right?
love the
Blended
gin
vodka.
blended
Like,
vodka.
I
That's a whole new
legitimately
category.
I love
enjoyed
it.
that dirty vodka
Oh,
martini
it was
more
the
than I
best.
thought I would. I
The
thought it was
dirty
great.
vodka martini was the best. It was the best of the day.
According to one person on the panel.
But that's that's
Got
the
'em.
way it goes sometimes.
I like what I like.
Thank you
And that
again,
wasn't
guys,
that IPA.
and please come back and let's do this again, or let's come up with a different idea and do that
For sure.
Fox and Seeker, find it wherever you shop if you're in Texas for gin or for vodka, because this is good stuff. Thank you guys so much for being on the show. Ian, it's a pleasure as always. Adam, thank you for
Cheers.
keeping it all together. Have a great week, my friends, and we will be back to greet you with show number 200 and what it is?
41?
46?
No,
47?
46, I think.
We're
next
halfway to
week.
300.
Halfway to 300.
Carry the one.
We'll get there, and next week should be an exciting show because some guy named Chris Hart's going to be on. So
Who? That guy's crazy.
have a great week, and cheers, y'all.
Cheers, y'all.
Cheers.
Sunshine is so good to you.